Yo, GM. How's everybody? Got a couple people up in here. See how many people we got. We got 6 people watching right now. I'm gonna get into this in a minute. Man, what a beating today the market has given us. Can you all hear me? Can I get anyone to say something in the chat if anyone can hear me talking right now? Nope. Hermit says all good on my end. Okay. Couple people watching. What a day it's been today. I'm gonna turn this music off in a second. All right, guys. Welcome to Astrology for Men. I am 0xRapture. We're going to get into some charts. We're going to try and read through the tea leaves, see if we can make sense of everything that's going on right now. Is my volume okay? Is the mic level okay? Need it louder, quieter? Not seeing much going on here. Okay. Genghis says all good. All right. Well, there's a lot going on in the market today. A lot of red. Difficult day, that's for sure. But there's definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to look at, a lot of charts to go through. And through moments like this, we get a lot of opportunity. Had a bunch of people put chart requests in the Telegram for Astrology for Men, so we're going to get through all of those. We can take a look at any charts you guys want to look at, any requests you guys have as well. Let's see, I'll pull up my screen. Get this going. Just have to bear with me a little bit. This is my first live stream solo. But I think we're going to be all right. Okay. Just a quick view of my one of my desktop windows that I have for my main workflow. Maybe get it up here a little bit larger. There we go. I don't know what's up with the picture quality, but I think I tried playing around with it, but it's not up as crisp as I want it. So I'm gonna have to work on that for the next stream, but I think it'll manage for this stream today. So this is my general workstation and what I look at every day. Like I have one really big screen that I have the majority of what I do on, and then I have a secondary screen that's stuff that I want more in focus. Use a lot of ChainEDGE. Shout out to ChainEDGE for supporting our show. I don't know if you guys are aware, but this show is put on by the Daily Edge, which was started by a good buddy of mine, Onchain Wizard, which is a daily newsletter geared towards on-chain degen, shitcoining, with a lot of alpha, a lot of actionable intel. And it utilizes a lot of our ChainEDGE data as well for the backend stuff. We're all about flows-driven information and flows-driven data to try and support a thesis and understand where the money is moving on chain in real time. So we incorporate a lot of that, and all over the course of these live streams, incorporate the ChainEDGE stuff into my workflow and show you guys some of the workflow that I go through and stuff like that. And obviously, we're going to go through a lot of charts. What I can do right now, let's just pull this up real quick. Yeah, I mean, not much can be said other than that. That's a rough day out there today for majors. A lot of interesting news in the headlines, a lot of macro stuff that I try not to get too involved with. I found in the past that macro just has a way of sucking you in and then like putting you in this completely bearish head state, which at times is warranted. But a lot of the times, what that has done for me is just put me into an overly protective position, and I ended up missing out on a lot of opportunities rather than putting my foot on the gas, allowing all this macro doom talk to cloud my judgment. So I try not to do that too often, and I found that more often than not, it's better to, yes, be aware of it and let it do its thing over a period of time, but like overall, you want to be positioning yourself bullish. Now, this situation is rapidly unfolding. There's a lot of stuff going on in relation to the global markets, like Japan, from what I've been hearing, is just imploding at the moment. So that's not great. But, you know, we move. I mean, like this ETH situation, pretty nasty right now. Like this level of crash reminds me a lot of when the Luna situation unfolded. It reminds me a lot of when FTX unfolded. I wasn't in crypto for the COVID crash. I'd sort of joined the industry in the months after that situation. So I never experienced that personally firsthand from a crypto perspective, obviously from a life perspective, but that's a different story. But this, I mean, it's accelerating, and that's quite an impressive move. I have to think that we're nearing some sort of oversold moment here and reaching some sort of bottom, but we'll see. I try not to predict, more just look one or two moves ahead based off what the chart's telling me. And at the moment, I mean, we've lost daily structure here, clearly. And I think we even lost 3-day structure and possibly even weekly structure on that move. Yeah. So, I mean, weekly, we're into an area of demand here. It's a deep discounted area of weekly demand. So we'll see how that holds up. Yeah, it's not pretty on that front. But we're not here to look at the majors, are we? We're here to talk about shitcoins. We're here to talk about onchain, which is really my area of expertise for charting. It's where I do the majority of where I spend the majority of my time and do the majority of my work, and where my system has really been adapted towards is for onchain. So let's take a look. What was the first request that came in? I think it was for smoking chicken fish, which had been a strong coin. Absolutely had been a strong coin. I'm going to do all my charting on Photon because it's one of my preferred places actually to chart. Like I use Deck Screener, but my account has been bugging recently, and some of the stuff settings have been saving. So I'm just going to do the charting on Photon today. That may change for future streams, but I do find that Photon charts are pretty clean and work pretty well. So smoking chicken fish. I mean, relatively speaking, it's doing a whole lot better than the majority of the market. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove everything off of here. I'm just going to get a clean look. Let's go to the highest time frame that we can see structure. Okay, so here's daily. And what I like to do when I'm doing my analysis, I like to go as high time frame as possible, where the chart is showing me market structure. So that's a sequence of swing lows and swing highs. And for it to be in bullish structure, it needs to be making higher highs. And in bearish, that means it's making lower lows. So higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, that's bullish. Lower high, or lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower lower low, etc., that's a bearish structure. And the higher time frame you go on that, the stronger the signal tends to be. So, you can be in bullish daily structure, but then on something like 4-hour or hourly, be in a bearish structure, but the overall trend still be bullish. Vice versa, you can have a massive downtrend, a massive correction, and lose structure on daily, but you can catch smaller scalp trades to go counter that trend on something like a 15-minute chart or an hourly chart, just depending on what the setup's showing you. So for my style of analysis and my system, it's very much based around market structure and understanding where that market structure fails. So if we look on this smoking chicken fish chart, immediately what I see is that we're testing the bottom of a daily range here. Oops. We're testing the bottom of the daily range here. On my charts, you'll notice that I use a few different tools. I use line tools often in a few colors, and the colors sort of mark out different things. And as I put them up on the chart, I'll explain what they are. So I use a line tool. I also use a line ray tool, which just sort of with one click pops one out, and it actually gives you values on the side. And I like to do my charts for the most part in market cap, which I actually switched to a few months back. I used to do it on the normal price chart, but I found, especially for on-chain, like all everyone cares about is market caps, and it's a whole lot easier to wrap your head around where price is at based off of market cap than trying to say, it's 0.00019, whatever it is. Like, it's a little ridiculous. And market caps are just, it's what the whole, what the majority of participants are looking at. So I just do all of my charting these days based on market cap. So what I see here is the daily range. And why do I say this is the daily range? Well, because we had a sequence of highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. And this last sequence here was the highest point that made the structure. So we can see here, I made a higher high here. And what I do for market structure, to symbolize the market in which direction it's going and which swing it created the high or the low, is I use an orange line that tells me, okay, that was the low that created the high that made a higher high. So that's why this is the daily range. And as you can see on SCF, we're testing the bottom of that daily range. Now the daily just opened about 2 hours ago, a little over 2 hours ago. So this candle has a long way to go. So we'll see how it unfolds. But at the moment, it's clinging to that daily range. If it loses this level here, once a daily, like I was saying, the higher time frame you go, the stronger the signal. So if daily structure gets lost, it's not great for short to midterm. I mean, it's not like it's a weekly structure. Weekly is even higher signal, but there's no structure on weekly at the moment. So if it loses the daily, it's cooked for a little while. So that's the first part of my analysis, is defining the range. What I also like to do is I like to just point out certain swing levels on the chart that are most likely going to provide areas of support or resistance on the way down. And what I do is I do that through a few time frames. And especially when a coin is new, I'll start that on super low time frame, like even on the 1 minute chart, because you're not going to have much to go by. And even on the 1 minute, it'll form little clusters and areas that end up going on to be future areas of support for bouncing, or if it loses that structure, areas of resistance. So these are sort of a few areas that I see here. So at the moment, and then what I'll mark out here is the demand zone for this chart. which really just shows you what a demand zone is as part of a range, it's the discounted area that you would expect to find a higher low to form. So it made a high, you expect it to bounce in this area. And that's primarily based around an area where price chopped around. It had some selling, but then eventually that sell pressure was taken over by buy pressure and goes on to create a new high. Now, it's not just any swing point. The defining characteristic of it is that it goes on to create so on this chart at the moment, and there's the orange level again, so you can see on this chart at the moment, it's in danger of losing that structure. Now, there is another area of demand a little bit lower on daily down here. But we'll have to see what happens. If it starts losing this box, this demand area on lower time frames, like say H4 or the 4-hour, starts to close below. I mean, that's early enough warning sign that it wants to go lower. So we'll have to see how this closes. About an hour and a half till the 4-hour closes. And if it starts closing down below here, I mean, high probability would be that I would think it comes back down to test this area, which on this chart is 35 million. And I know that sounds like pain, but we are talking, let me make this larger, but we are talking about, why is that so massive? We are talking about on-chain shitcoins and meme coins. And we all know they have a history of taking very large pullbacks before continuing further up. And then one thing that I can also do on this, since we have our area of demand and then a secondary demand down here, which I can also dry out, but I try to focus on the one move first. So if we're still working on this daily demand area here, I try not to draw more boxes on the chart because that just gets cloudy and confusing. And one thing to point out, yes, this is wicked below the demand zone so far, but it doesn't actually lose the level or the structure until you get a close below. So it can wick down here all at once, but if it closes back within here, the bullish structure still remains intact on the daily. But what I'll do now is I'll throw the fib up and let's see, because I have a feeling we're going to get the 786 aligning pretty close to that lower. Yeah, see? So right now, we're tagging the golden pocket, which on a fib is the area between the 0.616 and 0.66 fib retracement level, which is based around this golden ratio theory of things that can be found throughout the universe that fit within this ratio. And it's just an area on charts that is quite common, especially for crypto and shitcoins. I find memes tend to like the 786 or the 0.786 retracement quite a bit. But for stronger charts, if they're going to remain bullish and have strength, the pocket very well may be the extent of the pullback, which is what we're seeing right now. So it's hitting it, it's bouncing, and it's between the 61 and 69 million area. How poetic for a meme coin to sort of be bouncing around there. But we'll have to see what happens here. But for now, bullish structure is still intact. Here, let's see. Someone has a question. Can you tell us a workflow for people with low port under 5K trading shit on ETH? Thank you, sir. Came here from Discord. I mean, for ETH, one thing you have to contend with is the fees. They haven't been so bad lately. They've actually been quite low on for average for ETH. Like the last several months, we've been averaging like around 4 Gwei, which really isn't that bad. And 5K, I mean, you can do a lot of damage on 5K. What I would sort of do is try and get into things early enough with a low enough market cap, and I'd be spreading around maybe like use a 0.1 to a 0.3 ETH as your buy size, depending on how confident you are in that chart. Are you how did you make your way to us? Are you part of ChainEDGE, or did you find me on Twitter? Speaking to Zlatan 12. Sorry, I probably butchered that. Anyways, I'll jump back to that once he responds. So for this, if you were on this chart, if I was looking to enter, this would be an area of interest right now. Now, the market overall is in a very precarious situation, and I'm not so inclined to want to bid much at the moment from a shitcoin perspective. Like, I'm not selling my ETH here. I still have all my ETH and all my SOL. And now would not be the time to, after such a large sell-off, you don't want to be the person selling the bottom. Like, if I didn't sell the top, I'm not trying to sell here. And we are getting some sort of bounce. We'll have to see. I mean, equities futures open soon, and that'll be a telling for what equities want to do. But personally, I mean, this could be a great opportunity because it sold off quite a bit. It's showing strength amongst a lot of blood in the market. It's into an area of demand. It's tagged the golden pocket. I mean, there's a lot of confluence in that sort of area. So if I were wanting to take a stab at something, this is definitely a contender, especially in this area. As I said, there is a large probability that it actually wants to come down and tag the 786, as so many meme coins like doing. And what's interesting about the 786 is there's that level that I drew out from the 4-hour time frame that pretty much aligns exactly with the 786. The 786 is at 38 million on the photon chart, and that level is 35 million. So I'd be watching for signs of this 4-hour candle here to see what it wants to do. If it can close within, it's a pretty good risk reward to put in a punt there to try and see if you can get it back up to. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to go back to all-time highs because the market's just maybe not there right now, but I could see it trading back up into this area around here, around 117 mil, possibly higher, but I would just take it level to level at this point. Like, there's no point trying to assume that the market is going to all of a sudden go back to favorable conditions. So you take it level to level and trade at a time. But from the charts that I've looked at today and the last couple of days, this one's definitely one of the strongest ones. And maybe one thing that I can point out. So how I was talking about, you can be bullish structure on one time frame, but bearish on lower time frames. And essentially what that means is, here, I'll do a quick drawing here. So got a level and another level. And I need a drawing tool. Where's my drawing tool? There we go. So the larger trend can be doing things like this. Oh, that didn't work out, did it? No. Why was that not a drawing tool? No, why is this not drawing? Okay, well, I'm not going to waste time doing that. I'll just go back and show it over here. Okay. I was going to draw it out, but I can just show it here. So high, lower high. Sorry, high, higher low, higher high. Potentially higher low here, but we're not sure yet. But that's bullish structure. Let's bring it down to the 4-hour. So 4 hour, actually, it hasn't even lost the 4-hour structure yet. It's if it closes below here. So 4 hours is still bullish as well. Let's take a look at hourly. Okay, so hourly has broken into bearish structure within the higher time frame bullish structure, because we can see swing low that created the high. So there's your structure. It held it, and then it broke below here. So here was the low that created the high. Chops around a bit, comes down. You actually get a close below with this candle here. As soon as it does that, it goes up, creates a lower high, and then a lower low. And then we've gone and created another lower high and another lower low. And something that could have been an early warning, if you were monitoring this chart, say you're in this trade and you're monitoring it, and you're thinking, okay, is the selling over, or are we going to see more selling? Well, something that I see here is that we had a swing fail pattern on the hourly here, which is where a lower high was created, a lower low. It goes and attempts to close above to create a higher high, but it actually fails the swing level, closes as a sweep, and then you get further selling off. So that's an example. And I can go into more depth and detail on these in the future. As these streams get a little bit more polished, I can work on just constantly showing these concepts to you guys so that you can learn along and figure them out as we go along. What's this here? After first sign of weakness, would you consider de-risking or taking profits? I'm assuming you're talking about on meme coins. There's really two schools of thought for memes or crypto in general. There's, the buy really low as possible and ride it all the way up through as much of the cycle as possible. I'm not that type of trader. I am very much a levels trader. I studied for a long time with the likes of Trader Main, Big Cheds, Crypto Cred, and a few other guys. And these are old school perch traders from crypto. And that's where I learned a lot of what I do, and I apply those concepts to on-chain. So yes, if I'm seeing weakness, I will consider de-risking or just taking profits, because I'm looking at each trade as a moment in time. Like, there's things that I do hold long-term, but those are mostly my denominator bags, so ETH and SOL. And things that I'll hold longer term are when I find something really early through various sources of intel or inside information, or using ChainEDGE to see flows and holdings, and if they're continuing to hold. And if I got in early enough, then yeah, I'll hold that a little bit longer. But for the most part, the way that I go about things is a trade at a time. And I much prefer to take a trade and then be done with that trade and go to bed at night. I'm a little bit older and I have a family to support. So remaining all in on meme coins that, could go to zero at any moment is not exactly how I like to live my life. I mean, I take a lot of risk, and I'm in the very degen end of the spectrum, and I go hard in the trenches. Like, we're there 24/7, grinding it out, taking those pump fund trades, finding as much early alpha as possible, and grinding it out with some really smart and connected individuals who are really good at the game, and trying to find as much information asymmetry as possible. But yes, I will definitely de-risk when I see weakness. And a lot of that has to come down to what I'm seeing on the chart. Because if we're testing a level multiple times and then we're seeing, let's take a scenario, for instance, of a coin that printed an all-time high and then sells off considerably and then makes another run for all-time high. More often than not, especially in the state of the market that it's been for a while, it'll get to that all-time high and it'll fail that all-time high, and that's a very good opportunity to sell. What else is going on? How would I approach the current situation if I had a lot of bags you're thinking of cutting? Gut feel is rotate to stronger coins since they would bounce much harder than holding losers. Yeah, holding losers is never a winning strategy. Could they rebound some? Yes, absolutely. It's crypto. We see it all the time, especially on Solana. We see coins that go, 80%, 90% down, and then a few weeks later, the next thing you know, it's gone up to all-time high and beyond. So it all comes down to your time horizons, your risk tolerance, how much of your capital you're putting into each trade. Like if you're taking a trade and you've already made peace with that money being gone, and that's essentially your stop loss, like whatever you put into it is what the risk you're willing to lose. Then if it's down a lot and it's not ruining your portfolio from an overall perspective, then maybe you are better to just leave it in and see what happens if it can revive. Because so often we see all these CTOs and different events occurring, and then all of a sudden, or a tweet, or for some reason a random narrative or meta pops off, and then all of a sudden that coin explodes, and we see that happen all the time. So that also comes down to like the moon or dust sort of mentality. And you can also take the trade as selling your initials when you get that 2 to 3x and just leaving the rest in, and whatever happens, and hopefully somewhere down the line you get a great surprise, or the coin keeps going up and you keep selling on the way up. But me personally, I look at each trade as each trade, and I'm looking for certain objectives, and depending on the size of the trade that I put on, I mean, there's times when I may only be looking for a 2x, and I'm fine with that because that's my objective for that trade. Other times where you want to get in really low and you're hoping to see that 10x or beyond, it's a much harder game because you need to have a lot of information asymmetry, and be able to spot those trends early so that you're buying into the coin that's going to do that. And obviously nothing's ever guaranteed. So what is he saying here? So sorry, to come back to your question, Power Naps. Gut feel is to rotate to stronger coins. I mean, yeah, when a market is experiencing a moment like it's experiencing, strength is strength, and you want to be focusing your capital towards the coins that are showing strength, because when things do recover or rebound, they're probably going to bounce the hardest. It's just the way it is, because we have to remember these crypto markets are a massive attention game. So a coin like SCF has a lot of attention on it. I mean, I can even pull up ChainEDGE. We have this thing called the attention dashboard, which takes into account different metrics such as mentions on CT from key accounts. So here, this is our attention dashboard. This is the on-chain version. We have a mixed version which is all chains, EVM and SOL, or we can do SOL only or ETH only. So if we go SOL only, I mean, we can see SCF here. Actually, maybe you guys can't see. I'll make it bigger. SCF is the second spot here. So it's holding strong attention, just behind Solana Nero, which I actually saw had quite a rebound, which is interesting. But it's an attention game, and we can see that it's holding very high mind share. So is Ginon and Billy. So I mean, you want to be taking capital out of the coins that are performing poorly and potentially putting them into the stronger coins in moments like this. The only thing is, at the moment, we don't really know what the downside is. So you want to be in the stronger coins in moves like that, but you also don't want to rotate it now, only to find out that a next leg of selling is just around the corner. So that's a bit of a difficult game to play at the moment. But I would say Yeah, you always want to be in the stronger coins. I mean, that's just you always want to be in the stronger coins. There's no other way around that. And if you're noticing that your coin is lagging or weak, if you can accept the fact that it's down and sell for a loss, first of all, you're going to free up a lot of mental capital because you're not stressing, oh, this fucking bag is down, and like looking at it and it's down even more. Yeah, it hurts. But even if that coin does bounce, what are the probabilities on it? Could it 2x? Quite possible. Could it go beyond that? It's possible, but the probability goes smaller for any larger outsized gains. Whereas if you put that into either a newer coin that's hot in the moment, like a new launch that is getting all the attention, or putting it into one of the stronger coins, your probability for a larger return on that money is higher. It's just, it's just the fact of the game. Okay. So that was SCF. I would continue to monitor this on the 4-hour. I mean, it's having quite a nice bounce here. As of right now, I would say that this demand is holding. Okay. Let's see. What else was requested? Oh, hold on. Were you already trading crypto? I also started learning from those traders, and it's my first time trading. Any tips? Was I already trading crypto when can you elaborate by what you mean about that, Super Puppy Boy? Great name. With selling and not bidding anything, feeling like the worst here since that would completely miss any relief bounces. It's tough with memes because they're going to sell harder in moments like that, but they're also going to bounce harder once that pain is over. So if you've held all the way down through now, I would try and wait for a bounce to come and sell into underside rejections if it's lost structure on a higher time frame. If it's maintained structure on a higher time frame, there's not as much concern there until it loses that structure, or if it loses that structure. For coins that have lost structure and are seeing layers of overhead resistance, like, you have to remember, a chart is just psychology, right? Like, markets are just human emotion and psychology. And when you have a big run up and a lot of people buying the top, and then all of a sudden you sell and break structure to the downside, you're all of a sudden going to have a lot of people looking to sell at as close to break even as possible. That's why structure works like this, because psychologically, if you're looking at a chart and it looks bad to you and you're in that coin and you're in for much higher, you're going to want to sell at any opportunity you get to get as close to break even as possible. That's just the reality of what a market is. It's human psychology. So what you would look for if you're looking for a bounce is, where would the next likely area be that people would be looking to sell? And that comes down to structure as well, which we can look at a coin that's in bearish structure, so I can show you what I would look for where people might be selling. Were you trading before I got into crypto? I mean, I've been in crypto for over 4 years now, and trading the whole time. The early part of your crypto career is very much a luck game. You hear about this coin or that coin and you throw some money into it, and the next thing you know, you're up huge and you think that you're a genius. And there's a lot of naivety involved with that, which is also, that's part of why beginner's luck is a thing, because you don't know any better and you throw money into something. And if you find one that does well, you think you're a genius. But then the more that you learn, is a blessing and a curse, because, there were times early on in my crypto career where, like I said, you just throw some money into something with not much thought into it, other than you're hearing that the whole market's going up and everyone's printing money, and you do well on some of those. But then the more that you learn, and actually the reason why I learned about TA was after 2021 and seeing all of my bags round trip and go heavy underwater and be down bad. I didn't want to go through that again, especially for things like my core positions like ETH or Solana. Like I just didn't want to go through that again. The trouble with a day like today is we're seeing some of those signs of, okay, structure is broken on a high time frame. Should we be looking to sell on the bounce up into here? I haven't made that decision yet because my time horizon on crypto and on this cycle is longer than what's occurring right now. We're experiencing a bit of a black swan event that is causing all this downside pain. I mean, look at this. Even right now, Bitcoin is attempting to put in a sweep of these lows here. And I mean, if it does that, it's definitely an indicator of some form of a bounce to where, I don't know. I'd think that we're going to find some resistance back up at this level here. And if it can break through that, there's going to be resistance up here. But anyways, getting back to the story. So you had asked, was I trading before I got into crypto? Not really. I learned all about how to read a chart and how to trade properly from being in crypto and from wanting to not round trip. It was a skill that I wanted to learn as a necessity to survive in these markets. Yeah. Because up only euphoria season is great, but they don't last forever. And I don't even think we've had one of those yet in this cycle. So I think the cycle goes longer, which is why I'm not overly anxious to offload any of my core positions or stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, no problem, man. Any questions you guys have? Oh, what just happened to my screen? 1 second, just lost my share screen. Let's pull that back up. There we go. Yeah, guys, any questions you have, feel free to ask them in here or even in the Astrology for Men Telegram group. You can also answer any questions in there. Okay, let's move on to another chart. We spent a while on that. So, okay, someone asked for the Billy chart. Let's take a look. Ooh, okay. So immediately I can see that we've broken daily structure. Let's do a couple of the markings like I showed before. So I'll highlight key areas that I would look at on the chart based on past price movements. So those are two areas that stand out quite a bit to me. You made a high, price came back down, consolidated a little bit, attempted to go beyond all-time high, closed above, then immediately the next day closed back below and underside retested and then sold off. So what I look for is, okay, where did structure break? Because I can see immediately looking at this chart, is the Daily Edge a premium newsletter? No, it's free. You can go sign up for that. It'll come to your inbox. It's about 5 to 6 times a week that we send them out, and it's completely free. And a lot of the it's written by Onchain Wizard, who's just a fucking G with it, and just his ability to read the data and follow the flows is quite impressive. He ChainEDGE is also his creation. It was just something that he wished, it was a tool that he wished that he had during the last cycle. So he went about creating that with the ultimate goal being to make all of the subscribers as much money as possible by pointing out the flows and allowing us to see the movements of the top 0.01% of DEX wallets and seeing where they're putting their money. And it's quite powerful of a tool to use. So sign up to the Daily Edge. He does a lot of he puts things in there that are very actionable by looking at the data and using the information from our site, as well as having an ear to the ground of what's occurring in the market on CT and in Telegram groups and stuff like that. Highly recommend. Okay, so the Billy chart. Let me pull it up larger. What we can see here is a broke market structure right there. And why do I say that? Because this was the low that created a new high when it had a daily candle that closed above this level here. This is your range. This was your range. Let me start it from here. So let's rewind time and pretend that none of this from here over occurred yet. So we had this, and then it created this daily range when it closed above here. This was the low that created that. And then what we had when that occurred was an area of demand here, which would have been where I would be looking to buy a higher low. Now, unfortunately, that didn't hold. And what we ended up having was a close below, which is a shift in market structure to bearish on daily. We can see close below here, got the close below here on July 30th. The next day it attempted it and rejected immediately off that box. So this flips from demand to supply, meaning that this is an area where there was demand, because you can see it was selling off, and then you found buyers that stepped in, and it was a catalyst to send price higher to new highs. But it failed that high. So this was actually an early warning. And as I was saying a little while ago, that looking at a coin that's attempting to breach all-time highs again, I would be looking for signs of weakness, which this gave you, because it closed above, but barely. It just barely closed above. The next day it sold off, and it attempted to come back up into it. And this, if you were trading this actively and you were monitoring this coin and you're in this trade, if you didn't sell when it started closing back below here, this would have been your trigger here, because you can see it's attempting to come here. It's giving an underside. And the probability that this would sell off, given that it was such a weak claim of the all-time high and immediately selling back below, because if this was bullish and it was a lot of strength and not just a distribution, a reattempt at the highs of people just selling their coins, this move here would have been a little bit stronger above the previous all-time high, which was this level. But then the next candles, you would see, you would end up having price somewhere up here before it comes back down to maybe retest this as a strong support in the future. But instead, what it did was close above, immediately close below, had a fairly weak bounce off demand, and then I'd be looking to cut somewhere in here. And had you done that, I mean, you would have saved yourself a lot of pain. So what do I see now that this is closed down here? So it came down to that other area that I had marked out. There is a demand here, and this very well may hold. We don't know yet. So we can mark that out now as an area of interest. Here's your demand. This has already failed, so we can get rid of this. Let's see. So there was your low. As of yet, we don't have an area to define as a swing low yet, because it's still in the process. The way that I define swings is a 3-candle pattern, which is bullish, or for a swing high. Sorry, it doesn't need to be bullish, but for a swing high, let's use this one as an example. You have a low, high, low. It's a 3-candle pattern, and that's a swing high. Conversely, a swing low is a high, low, high close, with a swing being based off of the wick of the candle. That forms the range. So what I'm seeing right now on Billy is, okay, yes, we might see some bounce here, although the fact that it's trading below this level already, below this psychological area here at 65 million, isn't great, but it's still within this demand. But then what I see, because we're in bearish daily structure, we can bring this here. Here's your swing high. That's forming the daily range. We don't know where the bottom of the range yet is because, like I said, for swing low, we need a 3-candle pattern. We just don't have that yet. But what I can say, looking at this, because we are in bearish structure, even if we get a bounce here, there's a very high probability that we come up into here and see an underside rejection. Now, why do I say that? Here's the swing high, so I would incorporate that. Why would I say that I think there's a very high probability that we come up, and if we bounce here and come up into here, we see selling? Well, as I described before, you have a lot of people that bought into this buying the top, and they're trapped now. You have people that were like, oh my God, we're going back for all-time high. We're going to break all-time high. Let's go all in. And then what do you know? A couple of days later, they're underwater, and now they're really underwater. And anyone that didn't sell before this area here, or on the underside retest after losing that area, anyone that didn't sell there and thought, oh, we're going to reclaim, and then no, we're sold off. Psychologically, what I would expect to happen is, even if we bounce here, we're going to see some sort of rejection in here. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to reject and come down lower. We don't know that yet. That's, that's a few steps into the future. What I try to do is look for what's the next likely move, or what's the next 1 to 2 moves, because really that's all you can do. All this is probabilities. Let me rewind a little bit and just say, TA is just probabilities. Nothing about it is guaranteed. But if you have a system in place that is back tested and you've worked on and developed and you're strict about it, what it can do is give you probability about whether or not you want to take the trade. And what you're trying to do is find the highest risk reward for every trade that you take. So if probability is that we see selling from here, it doesn't mean that there's not a trade. It just means when it gets up into here, I would be looking on lower time frame of signs that it's trying to sell off. So like, let's even come down into lower time frame and look up in here when it made the high. So this is like textbook when I'm looking at this. Okay, so this was the new all-time high on the daily that broached. What we can see here, and we can apply the same principles on the higher time frame of the way that I draw out ranges and demand and supply. We can do all the same things on lower time frames. So what I see here, right there, this was so let me step by step this so that you can get an understanding, because the only way that you guys are going to learn from my system is by me taking this step by step. So this was the low that created the high that broke the previous high, creating a higher high. So that's your hourly range. Now there's a couple signals in here that, depending on how aggressive you want it to be about how you traded this chart, were some early warning signs. One of the first things that I see is we swept this area, this level, twice. Now a sweep, or a swing fail pattern, as it's commonly called, is generally an early warning sign that price is not showing a willingness to stay above that level. It's actually telling you, as soon as it's getting there, people are selling, meaning that they think it's time to get out. So that was an early indicator that if you were really on top of it and just sitting and watching the chart as it's doing this, that, if you are really fast acting and have the fucking balls and aren't worried that you're going to miss the next move up because you're looking at this and thinking, okay, it's attempted all-time high, it's immediately come back and closed back below all-time high. Now we're getting a sweep here. If you have the fucking balls to do it, that could have been a trigger for you. But that's easier said than done, especially, looking at a chart that's all of a sudden reclaimed $200 million. You're thinking, okay, $1 billion market cap is next. So I'm going to ride this out. But what then occurred after that happened, you can see here, we broke market structure with a close below. And then what ended up happening was you got a bounce here with an underside retest. You even got, what was that other thing I told you about a little while ago? Was you get a swing fail right here, right? So there's a sequence of events that showed you a willingness to trade lower because you got the close below, a bounce with a sweep, meaning that didn't want to trade any higher than there. And what ended up happening after that? Like say you witnessed this occur, you saw this happening, and you sold somewhere around here. That's a 72% drawdown you would have saved yourself from. I'm not saying any of this is easy. The concepts are very simple. It's just the human emotion and psychological component of it is the fucking hardest part of this whole game. And that's something that I still struggle with and battle with. Because that is the game, the psychological component of it. Anyways, so that is a way, especially circling back to the question from Super Puppy Boy, first signs of weakness. So that would be a first sign of weakness there on a coin like that. But even if you're not sitting with a coin with a chart and watching it on the hourly or the 15-minute, I mean, you could even go down to 15-minute to try and find even earlier signals. Trouble is with these shit coins on chain, once they reach a certain market cap and a certain amount of a high enough time frame chart with structure, M15 is really difficult to trade off because it's very noisy. M5 with a 5-minute, super noisy, and I wouldn't recommend it. But that really all depends on what type of a time frame you're taking a trade on, because amongst these larger swings, like there's trades to be taken here all day long, right? If you want to really zero in on your TA skills and just sit with a chart, like there's trades to be had all over the place. You're like, look, over here, higher high, broke the high, gave you a demand, hourly demand zone retest. You had a trade right there. It just depends on what time horizon you're looking at things and how involved you want to be and how locked in you are, because you can't be trying to take trades like that on a shorter time frame and not be completely locked in. Like you can't be doing anything else all day, because we all see how quickly things can go against you, especially on-chain coins with lower liquidity. So let's get rid of some of this stuff here. See if there's been any more questions. Can you give your 2 cents about mine? In the mood for ambiance. What do you mean by that? 2 cent about mine. What's mine? And PowerNav says, yeah, that's the worst part. Seeing the signs and knowing better and sticking my head in the sand at the wrong time. Yeah, because nobody wants to lose money. And once things start going down, you get that feeling in your gut like, oh, fuck, I wish I had sold. And I didn't. And even though I saw the signs, and now I'm down bad. And then you just want to like turn it all off and look away and do anything other. Yeah, we all feel that. It's a part of the game, right? Like, once I don't know how long you've been in crypto before, but once you've been around for a long enough period, like it's just part of the game. I was asking about my question on top. Let's see. What was this question on top? I don't see it. What was your question? Can you retype it in the mood for ambiance? Because the only thing I see is, can you give your 2 cents about mine? What's the first one that I see from you? So yeah, that's finding different trades on a lower time frame. I mean, you can even, if you're say you're able to be half involved, but you're not sitting there watching the chart all day long, like even on the 4-hour, which is this sort of in between time frame, because I like to be high time frame when the chart provides it, but 4 hours is a great time frame as well to be watching for. And we can see on the 4-hour. Let's go right back to that same area on the top because it's actually a really, really good pattern. It's like textbook for what you'd want to see. So here was the range on H4, the 4-hour. You had your low that created a higher high, breaking above the swing high. So then when that occurred, you had your demand zone on the 4-hour that was created here off this range. And then you had a close below. So immediately in my mind, I'm saying, okay, structure is broken on a higher time frame because hourly can still be a lot of noise, especially for a larger cap such as this and a chart that has a lot of daily structure. So there you got your close. So then as soon as that happens, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, where is supply now that we've broken structure? Because you had the break below, your range has shifted. Where would your supply be? So the supply, so demand is price consolidation and selling that leads to a bunch of price expansion. Well, the exact opposite is what supply is price consolidation and buying that leads to opposite of expansion is compression. And so then all of a sudden I'm looking, okay, where would I find supply? Well, there it is. And then what ended up happening? Tag supply sold off. And on an H4, if you're going in with enough size, this is actually an acceptable trade right here. You could have closed it there, or you could have sold your Billy there and bought back in here thinking, okay, maybe it might go, or you just sold here and your trade's done. But, you know, even on, so H1 was a earlier signal, but on H4, I mean, the trigger was pretty close, actually, 74% as well. I can't remember. I think H1 was also about a 74% drawdown you would have saved yourself from. So it's things like that. So I'll say this, like, yes, these moments are in hindsight, but these things all play out in real time. Like if you were sitting here with this chart while it was happening, you could have seen that occur. There would have been no denying that the structure had broken. And look at this, you even had, if you didn't actually catch this one and you thought to yourself, oh, fuck, I wish I had sold there. Well, it even gave you a few more opportunities, although here was another market structure break. So you bring your supply zone down to here because you had another lower low on H4. So you're thinking, okay, this bear structure is continuing. So then you look in here to sell if you weren't able to sell up in here. Okay. About workflow for low port trading meme on ETH. Okay, so you want me to circle back on that? Well, I had mentioned before, what I was saying was I would be looking for early and I would be spreading my bets into coins that are, 1 to 10 million market cap, preferably even earlier than that, like sub 1 million. But you have to understand that there's a lot of gambling involved in there and you're dealing with contract risk and rug risk on ETH. But I'd be putting a 0.1 to 0.3 into these plays. I would be trying to support it with data. So using a tool like ChainEDGE to show you where the flows are occurring, excuse me. I mean, the beauty about our tooling is we have this thing called the portfolio summary, which is this window here, where you can take a look in real time of tokens that they're holding in their balance. And you can change the age of that token. So what I'm doing right now is I'm selecting 0 to 48 hours. Now the last 48 hours on ETH has been bleak, so I don't know how many tokens we're going to pull up, but I'm putting 0 to 48 hours. Let's see what it pull. One token. And I also have it filtered by P&L of wallets of 400K, which means that wallets that have realized P&L balance, realized P&L of 400K or more are holding this token. Now we have one token that's popped up here. It's called P-Bar. They're holding 30K in balance, which isn't that high. Typically, what you want to see is their dollar balance held being somewhere in the region of $100,000 that they're holding. Has been a really great metric for sub 10-day tokens. But you want to look for coins like this. So let's pull up this token, P-Bar. I have no idea what it is or what it's going to look like. It's called the Platinum Bar. Okay, so it's a token that launched today amongst the blood. Smart wallets have bought this token. It has 24-hour volume of 1.3 million. Not bad for ETH on a day like today. The market cap is 400K. I'm not telling you to buy this token. Let me just first and foremost just say I know nothing about this token. This is just purely me looking at the data to get an idea of if I were to look for something to buy today. This might be a contender. It's literally the only token from the last 48 hours on ETH that smart wallets with a P&L of 400K or more are holding. With wallets holding 10K of the token in their balance. I can go down lower. I can put 5K. Oh, we don't even have any that are in 5K. So it expands when I go down to 1K. And what that means is there are wallets holding $1,000 to $4,999 worth of the token in their wallets, which is a low balance. Like I generally don't really look at that because, especially for 400K wallets, 400K P&L wallets, what is $1,000 for them? It's not really much. So it doesn't really instill much conviction in it. I mean, there's this other token called Hitman that I've seen talked about in a few private chats. So that might be something to look at. But again, they're only holding 4K of it, and it's one wallet. Whereas this P-Bar token, I can see that 5 wallets are holding it, and some of them are holding, well, one of them is holding 10K worth of the token, minimum 10K. I can actually pull open the token page. We can get a better look. So let's see here. So 24-hour inflows is net negative 11K. I can see that they bought 23K of it and sold 35K. And this is specifically about smart money wallets that we track at ChainEDGE. Like I was saying before, they're the top 0.01% of profitable DEX wallets. And that's on a rolling basis. Like these wallets aren't just, they make it in and they're there. If they lose profitability, they get pulled out. And new wallets that grow in their profits on a certain scale and threshold will make it in. So we're always finding new wallets, and we're cutting out wallets that are shit, or also wallets that say they caught one token and got a really big win, but then were shits ever since. We don't track them. We specifically try to zero in on guys that are trading on a daily basis and making profits. Okay, so this one we can see, it's called P-Bar. I can see that one wallet's holding almost 10K, another one 3K, another one. So, I mean, this is a potential contender. I'm not telling you to buy this token. You would have to do more research into it. I mean, what we can do is here we can see the Twitter account Platinum. Okay, so this is a play on Bar. That was a token from about 2 weeks ago that did really well on ETH, which was tracking gold, or it was attempting to track gold, and it did really well. I'm pretty sure it's come down quite a lot in price since then, but it did have a great run. So this is a token trying to play on that ride on that narrative, which it did well. I think there was also one called Bars, which was silver. So now we're on to Platinum, P-Bar. Gotta love the creativity. Oh man, these devs. Okay. So, I mean, that would be a contender, specifically replying to In the Mood for Ambiance. Nice name. Is I would, if you are a sub to ChainEDGE, I would be looking for things like that. If you're not a sub to ChainEDGE, but you want to have access to some of that data, subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. On-chain Wizard will point out a lot of these tokens that are ending up in this in these categories of holdings and stuff like that. You can also join our Telegram group where we try to put out a variety of content. Although for the last little while, it's been mostly just the newsletter, but we're gonna ramp up content on there, and then also on these streams. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to be trying to do these streams. My goal is to do them 2 to 3 times a week, maybe sometimes more, depending on market conditions and if people are finding value from these streams, and if I get them running a little bit smoother and get a little bit more comfortable behind the mic. The goal is to be running these 2 to 3 times a week at minimum. So that's also a place where you can, ask these questions and we can go token hunting and try and find some interesting plays. It's just today there's really not much that is fitting into that category of newer tokens with high balance. Like there's another one here from 4 days ago called Fat Cat, but then I look at 24-hour volume and it's 0. So that's obviously a scam token that was airdropped and they're just holding the balance in their wallets. So you have to look at all these metrics, right? Like what's the next one down? Ball, which I'm pretty sure was that Scottie Pippen one that he sold a ridiculous amount of ETH on and essentially rugged the project. And it only has 180K of 24-hour volume. So that doesn't really excite me. This ONI token, I traded a few days ago. I think there was a 2x or 3x out of it on the table. Still has 1.4 million of volume. So like if you are using ChainEDGE, 100% make use of the portfolio summary strategy. It's a lot less noise than sitting on the alpha stream, which is this here, which is our live stream of transactions occurring on the network. I have mine pretty strictly filtered. So there's the Solana one over here on this side, the ETH one over here on this side. I have pretty high filters on mine. What I like to see is minimum transaction sizes. Typically, for ETH, I want it to be a minimum of a half ETH transaction, but that's pretty low. ETH has some whales and they're dumping many ETH into some things. So, oh, wow, look at that one. Someone swapped 190K worth of ETH, 84 ETH for USDC. Ugh. I'm sure if we look back, this is only set to the last 1 hour. I'm sure if I switch it to go back further, we would have seen large sells like that all day, given the carnage and the uncertainty at the moment in the markets. Geez, look at the Sol ETH chart. Solana is benefiting from Ethereum being down much more. Wow. ETH is down 14%. Sol is down 6.5% about, which explains that fucking Sol ETH God candle right there. So yeah, getting back to this, if you've got 5K in ETH and you specifically want to stick to trading on Ethereum, I asked this on a group, but it'd be nice to get a quick demo. I don't know. Sometimes the meme is trash, but they send because team hold most of the supply and doing good shilling. Supply control for memes is good. At least it has been a good strategy. It's just like anything though, right? If the team are scammers or the team's shit, them holding supply is fucking horrible because they're just going to dump on you because they're scammers. But if the team is there to put in work and they're legit, or at least a level of legitimacy to them, then supply control is great because it means that they're going to hold the floor and they're not just going to dump at the first sign of weakness. They're going to rally around certain levels to try and support the chart. My EVM base bags have been down only, probably rotating to full port. Base has been a massive disappointment. I'm not going to lie. The thing about Base, well, they had a few marketing mishaps, but then also the bullish case for Base is Ethereum gas fees high, need cheap transactions. It's a little bit difficult to make that case when, like I was saying before, Gwei on mainnet has been hovering around 4 Gwei, which is historically low levels for months. And so all of the activity is going to remain on ETH mainnet because that's where the security is the highest. So whales feel more comfortable playing there. And there's been plays to have on mainnet. Like look at Nero that ran to, what did it top out at? Like 230 mil or something like that. What I'll say about EVM versus Sol, you have to take slightly different strategies to them both. Sol charts aren't as respectful of levels. They're more heavily reliant, in my experience, on using fibs, which is fine. You just have to adjust to that. You have to look at fib levels. What I do, though, when I'm analyzing a chart is I'll take a look at, first and foremost, market structure. As you guys like, I'm going to drill this into you guys each and every time. Like, market structure is king. Doesn't matter where you're trading, what instrument you're trading, what token it is. Market structure is king. And the higher time frame you go, the stronger that signal. But what I'll do is I'll look for areas that my eye is immediately drawn to, that to me look like areas that I would want to do business on, or that I would expect to find some level of support or a bounce. Now, how strong that bounce is anyone's guess, and you can't account for things like teams mass dumping or insider dumping. Like, these are things you have to contend with on chain. It's just part of the game. But I look for the areas that, to me and to my eye, I would expect there to be some sort of bounce, and that there would be a higher probability that a bounce would occur there. And then what I'll do is I'll align the fibs with that just to add confidence to that level. And if it's around the golden pocket or the 786, I mean, the 786 is very important on Solana. We see it happen all the time. But if I've marked out an area and it aligns with there, it gives my confidence in that area like a 2x on my confidence, because it's a lot of you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, this area, to me, just from my eye, I would expect it to be a bounce. Means that other people are looking at that area to do business in. Then you throw the fib up, and you know that a whole other slew of traders are looking at it as an area that they'd probably want to do business at. I mean, what it is TA, at the end of the day, it's a meme, right? Like, it's just, you're looking at things for probabilities. You're looking for areas that you would expect other people to be looking to do business at. That's what it is. And if you can base it around a system and a set of principles and triggers that you stick to over the long run, if your system is profitable, you'll be profitable. And also knowing when your trade fails. So say you've highlighted a demand area and that aligns with a fib, and then you're getting closes below and you've lost that level. Your trade's failed, at least based off of that version of your trade and that thesis. It doesn't mean that it can't go on to do well, but in that moment, that trade has failed, and you should more often than not, you should cut. But you have to be aware of what time frame you're trading on. Like, say you're taking a trade off the daily, but on the 5 minute it loses the zone. Well, that's not really good alignment of time frames there, because you're trying to take a daily trade off of a 5 minute trigger, and so much can happen within a daily candle on a 5 minute basis, 1 minute basis, 15. Like, there's so much that can happen within there that doesn't invalidate your trade on the daily, even if on a shorter time frame it did. Now, when you start getting higher time frame, like say on 4 hour, you start getting invalidation. It's a little bit better signal, and it's getting a little bit more in alignment with the time frame that you're trading on. So these are all things you sort of have to keep in your mind. And again, this P bar, I mean, there might be a trade here on P bar. Like, look, immediately what I see, So what I like to do is I go to the highest time frame that I have some level of structure. I see here there was this swing level that the 4 hour has not been able to close above. Now that doesn't mean that that's bearish because this chart is really new. I also see that there's a 4 hour fair value gap here, which is just an area where there was a lot of price expansion and it hasn't been tested yet, and there's a decent chance it might want to. I can also see that we did a sweep here on 4 hour. So that may be the extent of the down, and it may just want to go up from here. But let's see. Sorry, on the hourly. We're on hourly right now. But if we move down to 15-minute, we can see, it's a bit choppy. Technically made a lower low on M15, but like I said, 15-minute isn't that high of a time frame to be basing your entire thesis around. That could just be momentary. I would perhaps think that it maybe wants to come down into here. What we can do, though, is we can throw the fib up against this and see what we're working with. Okay, so it already tagged the pocket. If this closes as a sweep here, though, I think there's a higher probability that comes down into here. This is one worth monitoring. I mean, if you can buy this around 250K and throw a punt in there with a small position size and know that, okay, if it goes much below 200, it says the 786 here is 230K. So if you start trading much below there, that you just cut for small loss. I mean, I'd probably wait until gas gets a little bit better, because I have a feeling a couple hours from now it'll be probably back down to like sub 10, probably around fork way again, just the way that ETH has been doing. Gonna jump back to some more questions. Had that thought last time too, but then the ETH ETF news came out and made me second guess hard from that super bounce. I thought the bull case was Coinbase onboarding all their sex customers onto Base, but uncertain if retail is already here on Sol. There's been no real marginal gains in participants to onchain. Like, it's just the same group of us of a few thousand just PvPing each other back and forth, taking money from one and passing it to the next and then giving it back to the next, or taking, like, it's retail for the most part is not here. It's the same group of us that have been here through pre-ETF news into the ETF news. I would say a time when some new retail joined the space probably was around the Pepe time, because that came after the FTX drama. Crypto was seen really poorly. Then all of a sudden you have a coin that minted millionaires and runs to $1 billion market cap out of nowhere. Like that's really what sort of kindled the on-chain meme markets. But overall, is retail here? No one knew. I really don't believe so. And in regards to Coinbase onboarding with their wallet, I mean, that turned out to be a giant sell the news. Almost all the memes had a pump up into that news and then sold off. I mean, without retail actually being here, who is it that benefits from that wallet as an onboarding tool? Because anyone that's here already has a wallet. So if retail isn't really that interested, having a new nice wallet is nice because it is a little bit simpler, but it's also just an account extraction wallet, and I have multiple of those. It's not anything new. It just has a Coinbase brand and logo on it and access to their customer database. But if retail isn't actually trading, and if you look at the recent Coinbase reports, you can see that retail numbers are still down tremendously, and the driver of most of their growth has been all institutional. So I have been bullish Base in the past. I am currently not bullish on Base. I had fun there for a little while back in like March, April. There was some good times, and then there were some good times after the ETF announcement. It was interesting though on ChainEDGE, we just weren't really seeing the flows into base, even though prices were going up post ETH ETF news, like the early news, not when it was the approval news, but more the ETH might be about to get an ETF news. We just weren't seeing the flows, which was interesting because our guys are pretty smart and pretty on top of things. So to me, that was a bit of an early signal that the pumps were not necessarily sustainable, which it's turned out that that's the case. I mean, it's really poor marketing on their part that as soon as on-chain summer, as they brand it, started, Jesse decided that it was time to go on holidays and get married literally the day it started. I don't really know. I don't know what they were thinking there because it sure as shit was not an on-chain summer on base. And like I was saying, if ETH mainnet gas is a couple dollars a swap, and at most you're out $5 to $10 for a buy, approve, and sell transaction sequence, I would much rather be trading on ETH then because there's more capital, there's more safety in terms of the chain. Yeah, it is what it is. Maybe base will have its heyday again once I think the threshold is ETH gas consistently hitting a threshold of 40 to 60 Gwei, which from the lows that we've been seeing recently may sound like a lot to people that are newer, but I remember during last bull market there were stretches of days where gas was around 300, 400, 500 Gwei for days at a time, and it wouldn't come down. And that was just normal. And that's why L2s were embraced so much and so look forward to from the market, because then all of a sudden you have a chain like Arbitrum and you can go, and this is early Arbitrum days. I was one of the first people to bridge over there. And all of a sudden your transaction fees go from 60, 100, couple $100 per transaction. All of a sudden you're paying a couple dollars and you're like, holy shit, this is a new world. Well, right, the last few months, and they've been decent on ETH. Like there's been at least a couple tokens that even hit our threshold of 100K balance holdings, which are the safer trades to take on ETH. At least a couple of those a day. And then more trades in the lower end spectrum of the thing where it's riskier, but opportunity. And we've had gas fees that are approximate to what the early L2 fees were. So the bull case for base right now, to me, just isn't there. A day like today when gas hits, it peaked at 650 at one point, I noticed. You know, those are conditions that are useful, but that's not a sustainable level of gas. That's just people covering off loans so they don't get liquidated, or it's actual liquidation engines going around and liquidating people. So in a moment like that, when your goal is to try and maybe sell some ETH or to put ETH into a contract so that you don't get liquidated from a loan, you're going to get those gas spikes, but that doesn't really help base at all. Oof, yeah, realizing this too late. Just had to look at the bot volume. Smart money volumes have been showing for months. Yeah, I mean, here's another thing. Like in the newsletter, OCW has been pointing out since, I want to say April, once after base had its base season. I think that was what, like March. It was maybe end of February to March where there was base season. In April, when base bot volume started cooling, OCW has been pointing this out in the newsletter for a while. And there's actually a good site where you can check the daily bot volumes that I check pretty frequently, actually. And let me get you guys that site. It's from Dune Analytics, but the dashboard is called the DEX Trading Bot Wars. And you can actually see, let me pull this tab up. Here we go. We can take a look here, and let's go to volume. No, that's not the one I wanted. This is the dashboard, but let's see. We can see the proportion. I mean, Solana is just crushing it. Then you have ETH, Base, and BSC. BSC has actually been making a little bit of a comeback, although I don't really know anyone that's trading there. But you can see how tiny of a fraction the BSC, the base bot users are. They're the darker blue, just under the yellow and above the lighter blue that is Ethereum. I mean, it's like non-existent. And I know, you know, a lot of people are bullish on base, but you have to look at these metrics and just ask yourself, okay, they keep saying TVL is up and transactions are up or volume's up. Who's actually making these transactions though? I don't know. And, you know, they're all about onboarding devs and builders, which is great. That's what an ecosystem needs. And their ultimate vision for base as a chain is not meme trading. Their ultimate vision for base as a chain is, you know, supporting financial freedom. So their goal for that chain doesn't necessarily align with us as shitcoin traders and meme traders. It's good for their ecosystem to have those kind of volumes and to have us trading there, but it's not actually ultimately what they want. So, and they've proven that. They've shown that just by the way that they've gone about marketing this thing. I mean, what even they could have had a home run recently. They could have had a home run recently with Miggles. Which let's pull the Miggles chart. Let's just need the contract for it. And we'll get to some more of these. I know, guys, sorry. We've been talking quite a bit and we haven't gotten to too many charts. We'll get to more of them. Let me get the contract for Miggles. Ooh, 14.77 million at the moment. By the way, I've used to use Rick as a scanner bot in the TG groups and in different groups, but I've recently switched, and a couple other groups as well. They've switched to Feigns. There's just a lot of weird things happening with Rick, and some information that came out about an insider cabal that's, you know, monitoring the queries and stuff like that and listening in on chats. I don't know how substantiated that fully is, but I mean, in some of the group chats that I'm in that are pretty private and with some fairly prominent people, there would be conversations where we talk about potentially launching a token or something like that. And then the next thing we know, a token with that theme or ticker would be launched. Okay. This does not have my settings on it. It's okay. It's what it is. I can do the analysis this way. I do prefer my colors, but it is what it is. So, Miggles. Ooh, I haven't looked at this in a little while, and gotta say, that is a bit of an oof. Sorry, let me just... A couple of days ago, I had to reset my browser. And in that process, all of my settings got nixed because Brave, which is a great browser, very privacy focused, very crypto friendly, sometime in the recent update, they removed the ability to delete site data on a site-by-site basis, and it's just global now, which means that if you go and clear your site data, it wipes out the whole fucking thing. And let me tell you, that is frustrating as fuck, because I had to go through multiple platforms and readjust things, and it looks as though I have not done that for Base yet, which just tells you how much I've been trading on Base lately, because I haven't even gone and fixed the charts yet. So Coinbase had an opportunity here with Miggles to have a home run. And it was almost the whole market decided that if Miggles does well, we'll be bullish on base. And if not, then we're not going to be bullish on base. And what ended up happening? It did really well. Got as high as 114 million, but then it attempted to break that again and didn't even get back to 100 million. Now, something else to consider is market caps are psychological levels, and 100 million is a very big one. So the fact that it never even closed there. The daily tagged, but the daily never closed above 80 million. So there was a few warning signs here that this probably wasn't going to do so hot once it got back up there. You can see it had the swing high all the way up to 114 million, but it closed at 80 and has never been able to breach that level since. But then, okay, we've broken down. We've had multiple lower lows on daily now. Sorry, you're just going to have to bear with me for these. It's just going to be these blue lines. They had an opportunity for a home run and they fumbled it. And in the process, they also pissed off a lot of teams that were in the ecosystem building long term that felt shunned by Coinbase promoting this token out of nowhere while all these other teams have been building. Now, I could give a shit, about teams' feelings and they didn't promote my token. Fuck off. Like, you didn't manage to bring people in and sustain your prices in the first place. So why would they, it's fair game. But Coinbase had an opportunity to have a home run here. And this pretty much sums up the sentiment and the feeling about base right now. That it was trading at 114 million. Now it's down at 15 million. What is that? That's a 90%, 89% drop. So, they had opportunity there, but they fumbled. Oh, it looks like we've got a couple more people that have joined, 13 of you. Oh, wow. We've already been rocking for almost 2 hours. Good God. Well, good thing I spend my entire life on chain and I don't have anything else to do at the moment or anywhere to be, so we can keep going. I actually think someone requested the Miggles chart. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's bad. It looks really bad. Let me change a little bit of this so you can see it a bit more, because I hate the way this looks right now. Let's make it stand out a little bit more. By the way, if you guys in the future want to know things like my fib settings and stuff like that, because I do use custom fib levels. Like, yes, the pocket is pretty standard and the 786 is pretty standard, but I also use custom fib levels for intermediary levels as well as extension levels, which are potential topside targets. I can share those with you guys in the future. Yep, cheating all the base bags. The signs were there, and I'm in a couple groups where people are still very bullish on base, and it's tough because, there was a moment in time back in February, March, where people made a lot of money. And when someone makes money somewhere, they feel a level of commitment to that because they have a positive feeling about something and made them money. But the reality on the ground, at least for the last while, is it's been a dead chain. And sure, there's going to be people telling you, oh, this is a perfect buying opportunity, like so low, like your risk reward is great here. That may be true. But on charts that are in very bearish territory, with daily bearish structure, there's a really easy way to flip bullish on a chart that is down bad. And it's, no, you're not going to catch the absolute bottom. You're not going to be the hero that goes, oh, I bought the dead fucking bottom on this token. Look at me. I'm so smart, blah, blah, blah. No, that's an ego game, and I'm not here for it. What I'm here for is protecting my capital first and foremost, and growing that capital second. Because You can always take another hit if you've protected your capital, but if you blow your account out, you're fucked. So this is actually a good chart to demonstrate what I would look for. Oh, what is this? Let's resize this. Okay, now technically on daily, there isn't really a structure to be set on the way up, but we are making a sequence of lower lows. So we'll call it bearish structure, even though technically speaking, I'm sure if we go to H12, excuse me, why did that not change? No, not even on H12. Let's see 4 hour. Okay, so 4 hour, we 100% have structure. It broke below it here. So let me, on H4, 100% broke structure here because we had the low that created the high when it closed above this swing high, creating the daily range. Close below right here. You had to close below the level. So then you're looking for underside of rejection, underside retest and sell-off, which is what occurred. So bearish structure. We can see that we've traded down. Now the fibs on here aren't going to be set up the way that I had them. They're just going to be, yeah, like that, which, ugh. But we can see that we're trading at the 786 essentially right now, and there also happens to be a demand zone right there on the 4 hour. I mean, it could be said that there's a trade here because you're at the 786, although you're a little bit below it. Let me adjust this a little bit so you can at least see the lines cut across. Let's get rid of these fucking queer rainbow colors. Okay. And make a little adjustment so it's a little bit easier to see and more aligned with how I use them. Sorry, sometimes I talk quiet. I need to speak louder. Okay. These are not how I would have my fibs drawn, but I'm not going to go through and adjust them because it's annoying to do. I'll do it, make sure it's set up for next stream. So there is a case to be made. No, the case is gone. Yes, you're in demand, but the true level that you would have been watching is the 786. And you can see right here, it tagged the 786 and gave a reaction, but then it sold through. If you were looking for a trade here, it would be to buy as close to the bottom of this box as possible, which is 11 mil. Why do I say close to the bottom of the box as possible? Because if it closes below, your trade's invalidated, you stand to lose the least amount of money. Because it's a clearly defined risk area where the risk reward doesn't get much better than that. Closes below, you sell. Buy here and you have a hero trade. I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just saying you're looking for a hero trade. That's an opportunity. But more realistically, what I would be looking for on daily, let's go to H12 because daily is a little bit rough and there isn't as much. I mean, guys, for anyone that is a baseball and this was like your beacon of hope for the chain, what do you do when it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days of red like that on it? Like, that's pain. That is a painful chart. Let's switch to H12 though. So if I were looking for a trade on this, I would wait for it to regain bullish structure. And what do I mean by that? Because as we can see, when I was talking before, you get built-in levels of overhead supply of people that thought they were buying the bottom and now are underwater. So this is now a supply zone. So my probability was, and my gut would say, if we get a bounce, we're going to sell off into somewhere in here. What would make me bullish on this as a potential trade would be you get a close above here, above this level at 37 million. Now I know people are going to look at that and say, oh, but that's so far away from the bottom. But that doesn't fucking matter. You're trying to catch a falling knife and potentially lose another 50% of your capital off that trade, or are you trying to buy with the trend? Like, yeah, everyone wants to be a hero. except most people that take those trades don't end up being heroes. Most people take those trades and they end up losing a lot of capital, or they have a lot of capital to begin with and they can afford to take those hero trades and sit on it and wait and thinking, 8 months from now, this might be back trading somewhere over here. But if you're on a shorter time horizon and you're on a smaller portfolio and you don't want to be sitting in a bag for months and months and months hoping that it's going to turn around, there's a real easy way that doesn't involve you having to monitor the chart 24/7. You wait for, in this case, an H12 close above there, and you buy the higher low retest. Because the chart doesn't just go straight up. Like, yes, this was just straight up, but that was a new token that had a lot of attention. And if you go down to lower time frames, okay, let me finish this thought first before I do that. So if this closes above here, you're going to get a higher low somewhere. And probability-wise would say, most likely, say this is the bottom. Say this ends up magically being the bottom and you get a close above here. What would I look for then? Because all of a sudden, you've got a market structure shift. I would look for something to come down into this area of demand. I would look for closes above. Maybe it's a bid retagging this, but more than likely, it's a higher low forming somewhere in this box to go on to put in a higher high. So you can buy close to this level again, potentially. I'm not saying on this chart right now because it hasn't done anything bullish yet. I mean, we might be able to go down to like 15-minute. Even on the 15-minute, though, your swing highs all the way up here. So, right now, probability-wise, it comes up in here somewhere and sells off again. If it can manage to get above this, then you can go lower time frame and say, okay, I've got a lower time frame trigger. I can do this. I can say, okay, if I get a 15-minute close above this box, I look for a retest to buy. But I would only be looking for a trade, up into here somewhere. I wouldn't be looking at that as a high time frame trade. But anyways, that's what I would look for on a coin like this that's down bad, on any coin that's down bad, is you want to see a period of it to stop the bleed. Big Chuds, a great trader who taught me the importance of horizontals over diagonals and how to look at a chart from a horizontals perspective. He has this thing that stuck with me, was that you have red light, yellow light, green light, which means you want to be not in the trade here. You want to wait for it to have a period of consolidation, which is the yellow light, which is you're getting ready, looking for a reason to enter a trade, and then you have the green light. Right now, we're still on red light. But if this chops around here for a little while, and then it gets a close above here, you're in yellow light, and then you're looking for the green light somewhere down here. Okay? Okay, so we can move on here. Should I move on to some of the other requests, or do you want me to show you, like on a chart like this, something that is bullish as fuck like this, how you would look to enter a trade like that? Because it's tough. There's nothing on daily that would give you an entry. You'd have to go to lower time frames. Because on a brand new token, you're going to be starting on the M1 or the 1 minute, and then the M5, and so on and so on. Yes, it will be. It'll be up as a recording. I mean, I know we're pushing 2 hours here, so I'm probably only going to do a few more tokens, and then maybe I can pick up again tomorrow and do more of the other coins, because I know that there was a lot of them that you guys requested, and I've been going through a lot of concepts here and being kind of slow, so I'm going to have to work on my speed in the future, but I just like talking about this stuff and teaching. Anyways, so coin like that, super bullish, day one. What would you do? What would I do? How would I look to get on board? Let's just assume none of that's happened yet. So say this coin launches out of nowhere and you're like, holy fuck, what is going on here? How can I get on? Like, say you missed the first day, because right off the bat, I can see on M15, if I mark out that swing high, it broke the high, it gave you entry share. But let's just say you missed this, and all of a sudden the coin's doing this. And you're like, oh my God, all of CT is talking about this coin. How can I get on board this coin? This shit is ripping. I don't want to buy a top. Like, what can I do? Okay, so what I would do, say it ripped here. It ripped from 4 million to 13 million. And you're like, holy fuck, this is the best thing since sliced bread. How do I get on board this coin? Well, what I would do is I would mark out the most recent swing high we're on M15 right now, so we're on the 15-minute chart. I would mark out the most recent swing high. Now, I don't want to be buying a top because sorry. I literally have allergies to buying tops. I just can't do it. I'm not the type of person to just FOMO top ape. It's just not in my nature. I'll miss out on opportunities because of it, but it's just not how I like to trade. But mark at that level, broke the high. Okay, so then you're on M15. You're like, okay, I got to be pretty quick. What am I going to do here? Well, we can see here. We have a demand zone after it broke the high. Now, you're not getting a swing low here on M15. On M5, it's most likely a swing low there. Yeah, so here. Right there. So there was the low, actually. That's technically the low there on the M5. Well, not technically. That is the low that created this whole sequence here. You can see that it swept there, but it came down into this demand. So if I was looking to get on board a token that's exploding really quickly, and I was like, how do I get on board? You mark out a swing high. You mark out the swing high, like the highest point that it's reached. You wait for it to breach that, and you buy the quick pullback into that area and go along for the ride. Now, it actually gave another entry to get into it over here, which is probably an hourly entry, I would say. Like if I put this on hourly. Yeah. Here we can see an hourly low that created a new high, comes back down and tags it. But if you're there and you're like you're at your desk and you see a coin go crazy like that and you're like, how the fuck do I get on board this? I don't want to miss this ride, but I don't want to buy a top. Wait for it to give you an indication that it has a willingness to go higher. And that willingness to trade higher is closes above the swing. Because you go to higher time frame on this, you really didn't get an opportunity to get in on it. You would have hourly was the highest time frame that I just saw. That gave you an entry because on 4 hour, you're waiting for that swing high to break. You're not getting any retests. Like, yes, it came down a bit here, but it didn't touch anything of significance. Came down and touched an M15 level, which was that candle that we saw swipe down. So you really have to be on low time frame because I can't see one, except for that one there on H4. But at that point, you've already had your, this is technically a blow off top pattern. Like this is a parabola, right? Like we zoom in, like that's in no other market on the world are you going to get this in a day or two, which is why we do crypto. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look and see a few other requests. Where are we at now? It's 11. We've been on for 2 hours. How's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? Let's take a look at the... So I've still got 8 of you watching. Oh, I see there was a couple questions in the... Managed to catch it still. We'll watch the rest after. What a shitty... What a shitty episode, by the way. Hey, man, I'm doing my best. It's a work in progress. We'll get better as we go along. But main thing about this is to provide education and to help you guys read charts as part of it. The other part of it is just if some of you, all you want is for me to draw up the chart and tell you, okay, this is where to enter, I can do that as well. Let's take a look. Oh, you meant fair enough, buddy. I got you. You know what? I started watching that show with my wife, and I just kept falling asleep, so I gave up on it. I don't know. Let's check out. Let's see. The live stream is great. Oh, appreciate that, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, guys. I'm just chatting with someone in the Astrology for Men TG up here. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's come back down into the request channel. And take a look and see what was requested. Quite a few requests. Okay, let's try and blaze through some of these so that we're not here all day. Someone requested Ampleforth. Let's take a look at Ampleforth. Let's take a look here. So it's an older chart. It's a larger market cap, 200 mil. So I don't think this chart has the full history, which is a little bit difficult, and I'd want to see weekly. But what I can see immediately is there was a level here. This is the level that you wanted to hold, and it's broken below. And I can see here that's the level that it's working on right now. If it can manage to hold and close back above this, then that's a good sign, at least short term. I don't know how long term of a trade that might be, but that's a better sign. If it loses this on daily, it's rough. I mean, I don't know what the chart history looks like before here, but if it loses this level on daily, like it's a lot of free air down there. I would circle back on that in the future. I would, well, not in the future. I would see how this close looks tomorrow. It's trying, it's attempting it, but I mean, as soon as it lost this level, that was already an early warning sign. Sorry for the sidetracking. I appreciate all the deep dives. Yeah, man, no problem. I mean, the whole purpose of this is to pay forward some education that I've learned along the way to help people prevent themselves from getting blown out, but also to make money. Like my two goals with this show are to help people make money and to help them not lose money. Is Ample a rebase token? I'm not sure. Oh, is Ample the one that's tied to EFI? And I think EFI isn't doing great either. Oof. I don't love volume candles. I don't usually use them to trade. I use volume specifically as a gauge of whether a token is has attention on it or not. So I generally try to get them off my charts because I find they're just a bit noisy, and the candles themselves tell me what I need to see. So I know no one specifically asked for E5, but that is rough. Like here was your demand zone, which it lost, and now that's going to be overhead supply. All right, I lost that. Broke structure. Yeah. I don't I don't like this chart. It's trading at $95. At one point in time, I think this was trading at like 1,000. Can't remember what was the price. What did this trade at? Oh, this is 520. Okay. So maybe not as high as I thought, but still $90 from $500. Quite a large gap. I'm pretty sure that Ample and EFI are linked in some way. So on Ample, like I was saying, whoever it was that requested Ample, this is the level that I'd watch, but realistically, I wouldn't be bullish on this. Like, here's your structure shift here. If it closes below here, if it closes below here, that's a bearish structure shift because it had a bullish structure shift when it closed above this level. And I would have expected a bounce off of this demand area here, which it tried, but it's clearly lost that area. So this is a level, but actually the more important level is this one here, because we can see how structural that was for a long time. So if this can get back above here and hold, that's where you're bullish again. So this line to me doesn't even matter. But we have it there because that's where the daily structure breaks. Okay. Moving on. Ample. Okay, someone asked about Mumu. Oh, here's Flog. Here was Billy. Let's take a look at Mumu. Okay. Oh, that's a nasty. Now, you see things like that, you're like, fill the wick. Maybe. Be great if it did. That's it's an $800 million wick. Okay. So this is daily. This wick does skew analysis a bit because it's hard to judge where the swing level is, but I would actually, in this, I would just kind of say that that's the swing level where it broke above. And now we've broken below. Close below, you can see it rejecting directly off of that level, but daily demand is still down here. Like I would argue that this is daily demand here. Not argue, it is daily demand. So Mumu still looks fine. Whoever requested Mumu, who requested Mumu? DK requested Mumu. Mumu still looks fine here. You can go down to lower time frames and see what you're looking at. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of sweeps in here. It's tagged it once, tagged it twice. If this ends up just being a sweep, like we can see it actually on H4. We made a lower low here. But that doesn't concern me too much on this chart because we are into that daily demand. This might just end up being a sweep here in the daily demand area. I mean, I'd say this is a decent bid for Mumu. If things are going to stabilize in the overall market and memes continue to outperform, like I think they will, then this is a decent bid here. It can come all the way down, though, to the bottom of the box before finding its bottom, but I think anywhere in this box, I mean, it's a wide range. It ranges from 80 million to 112 million is the box, but that's your demand on daily. I'd be looking for something, to come down and then come back up from there. Mumu bullish. Okay. So Mike asked for a few, Mog being one of them. Okay, let's take a look at Mog. I was looking at it before, and it wasn't looking fantastic. Ooh, big look on that chart. Okay, here's Mog. So, what do I see on Mog? I pointed a couple areas that stand out to me. Okay, so on Mog, those are a couple areas that stand out to me, actually. Let's highlight this one as well. So, it's a pretty steep correction. Went from, I mean, I remember a week ago, people were saying Mog to $1 billion when we were at 900 million, and now we're at 450 million. So it's come down 50%. I mean, that's a pretty decent correction, especially for a larger cap. It's finding some support at this previous all-time high level. It's looking a little bit heavy, but so is ETH right now. Decent bounce on majors. Decent bounce on majors. Okay, so what I really see though, daily. Okay. So this was the original. So in my system, a high is a candle body close over a swing level, and not just a candle wick. It's a candle body close above. So what we had here was you had this high was broken to the upside with that high. So we had a range. Excuse me. This was your daily range. With your demand there. It broke below though. Switching structure to bearish on daily. And then it broke below again. So we've had two lower lows on daily for Mog. What's tough about this one is the top of your daily range in bearish structures all the way up here. So you could get a bounce. Like on daily, for this to be bullish, it's a long way away. So I would switch to lower time frames on this one because that's a giant chunk of the move and you're going to miss out on too much. So we can see what H12 is looking like. Okay. So this is a little bit more constructive. On H12, we've had a sequence of sweeps here. SFP, potential SFP here. If this manages to close above, we also had an SFP there, but it's managed to sweep the low potentially twice now. So that's constructive. Come down to H4. Okay, here we go. So H4 is pretty telling here actually, because you had your close below the level. So what I would look for on H4, if I wanted to get into this trade early, based off H4, I would wait for an H4 close above here and then a buy retest. It's not buying the stone cold bottom, but it means you can buy somewhere in the $500 million range to cash the potential next leg up. But because this is broken below on H4, even though we're sweeping on H12, my bias would be towards lower. My bias would be that we see lower. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that we just had a massive overselling event. Like, look at this. Look at that sell candle. Look at that sell volume there. It's pretty large. Let's get rid of that because it clouds the chart. Is that a sweep? Yeah, that's a sweep. It's in an interesting place because with the H12 sweeping, it could just be, this could be the yellow light moment before it goes up, but I would wait for a close above here, truthfully. Hold on a second. Let's zoom in here because technically speaking, this was the high that created the low and it broke above. You know what? I'm actually going to change my stance on this. I think H4, this is bullish here. I think this is your demand. Oops. That's your demand on H4 when you had a close above here, because this was the high that created the low. We then took out that high, creating a higher high on H4, and now it's come down and sweeping demand. Now, yes, it had this, but it was a sweep and closed back above, so it didn't lose the level. If tomorrow Armageddon doesn't break loose and equities don't completely nuke and majors don't completely nuke, MAGA's a bit here. MAGA, I would say, probably has a slight higher correlation to majors just because I'm pretty sure it's available on perps, on some sex, on some sexes. That may be inaccurate, but I'm pretty sure it's available in perps. So there's a higher correlation to majors, so I would be aware of that. But if we don't wake up tomorrow and shit is nuking even harder, this is probably a good bet on MOG. Yeah. Okay. SCF I already did. Let's see, we got a request for Selfie. Is everyone still with me? You guys still awake? Still got 8 people here join with me. That's amazing. You guys are troopers. We've been here over 2 hours and you're still sticking it out. By the way, I'm thinking in the future of having music play in the background. I don't know if that's distracting for you guys or not. I just need to figure out a better way to play the music in the background because the one through the streaming app is not great, but that's a future problem. I may play music in the background just for some vibes. Okay, Selfie. So obviously recently it had an explosive move up after being down sub 1 mil. It traded all the way back up to 54 mil. So let's take this from a zoomed out perspective. Let's go to daily. So when I look at this, I see a ginormous range. That price traded below, rejected off of. As soon as it closed back above, retagged and shot up. But this was another scenario how I mentioned earlier about a coin going for previous all-time high and then failing. And this is a very clear outline of that. You had your close above on daily, immediately closes back below, The next day closes even further down, goes up for an underside retest, sells off further. Now, it's into some daily demand here. Right here, this is the daily demand zone. So if I were looking for a bid, it's not a bad area to look for playing for another bounce. Where I would really like to bid this, if I were wanting to bid this, and this is actually on a list that I have of charts to buy once they've come down to a bottom again. I think if you can get this around 5 million, it's because there's a clear range. Made that range, price traded below, underside rejected. As soon as it reclaimed it, retested from above. So for me, yes, there's but potentially trade right now in this box. Like if I come down lower time frame, no, we're not there yet. Maybe H1. Okay, so no, H1 made a lower low here. So there was almost a trade because you had an hourly range. This was the low. See, it closed below there. So there's your hourly range. You had an hourly candle that closed above, which this would have technically been demand, or could have been viewed as demand, but then price sold through it and is underside rejecting now. So not quite the trigger yet on any time frame, although this is looking pretty, this cluster is looking, the cluster is looking like there's a potential trade there. But ultimately, on Selfie, what I would like somewhere around 5 million. Another way that this could have been played in the past, I know there's a lot of this like past tense looking at the chart to see where a trade could have been. But if you were looking at it, if say this coin was on your watch list and you're like, how do I catch, how do I get this? How do I get this move? How do I get an 82x? It's wild. Gotta love crypto. 82x in a matter of days. So say you're looking at that, you're like, oh, I really want to be able to catch a trade like that. Well, there was two ways. Once you looked at this and decided, okay, if you looked at this and said, okay, I see a range, rejected, you're looking at that level, you're like, okay, that level is important because as soon as it closed below, underside rejected, sold off, tagged it again, sold off. So you're saying to yourself, if it reclaims this level, which is actually similar for Ample that I was talking about with that level, if it reclaims that level, I look to buy anything close back to that level to go long. Right? You're a little bit later than the stone cold bottom. You're not getting an 82x, but you are getting a 10x, and you can go in with more size than down here with zero confidence that it's going to turn around. So you end up with a similar gains in P&L. Like $100 on an 80x versus $1,000 on a 10x. It's a pretty similar outcome, right? Just as simple math. And depending on what your bankroll is, if you see something like that occur, you put in 10, 20, 50K on a 10x, that's a really good fucking trade, right? It's all about probabilities at the end of the day. But say I was okay, I'd like to, what was the ultimate earliest sign I could have gotten on that? The earliest sign for this was you had a daily higher high here. Why do I say this is the daily higher high? Well, because the low was this candle here, the lowest close that it had as a swing. And this was the high that created that low. So once this high created the low, as soon as it closed above, that was a shift in market structure to bullish on daily. Now, for my particular system, it would have looked for some sort of retest, which it didn't give. So that would have been a tough one to enter on. You would have had to just, the trigger wasn't there for me personally. Possibly if you go down to lower time frame, like what happened here. Okay, so it closed above. It gave you an H4 demand, like not a swing level demand, but an H4 demand where you got to close above, came down, tagged it. I mean, what? All right, so you're looking at a 20x. Better than the 10x, but not as good as the 80x. So it's about finding higher probability setups and knowing your risk and the amount of capital that you're willing to lose or willing to gamble on something. And the higher the probability of the trade, generally speaking, the more risk you can put towards a trade. So for Selfie, there's reason to suspect that this holds as demand, and you have a trade here to attempt. I mean, first trouble area that I see that I would be looking for signs that it's just a short-term trade is something coming up into here. So the trade for me really would be trying to buy somewhere in the box, say even buy now. It may come down more. Problem is your trade is invalidated almost 40% below. So it's got a decent distance to go. But say you buy somewhere around here, the trade is up into somewhere around here. So you got a 2x on the table for something like that. If you're a longer term holder, you want this to hold on daily. If it loses this demand zone on daily, if it closes below here, chart's cooked. I mean, it's looking fairly cooked right now, clear underside rejection. But if it loses this box, it's really cooked. So bulls want this to hold, or holders want this to hold. Bulls have a trade idea in here. Longer term vision, I would want to buy down here. Okay. Flog. Pretty sure I had that up here still. Okay. So people have been pretty bullish on Flog recently. Let me clear this off. Let's pull it up. I can get a larger view. Let's see what we got higher time frame. It's a fairly new coin. It blew onto the scene, as all these coins do. But day one, it had a really good run up. Actually, this one was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine pretty early. So first, what I do is I mark out the swing levels that stand out on the highest time frame possible. So we've got our all-time high, this swing level here. There is a 4-hour demand here. There's no swing low on it, which for me gives it less importance than if it was on the swing low, but on this time frame, it's what we have to work with. There's your H4 demand. Here was your higher high. So what you're looking for is your higher low to form somewhere in here, because technically speaking, this is the swing low. So you're looking for your higher low to form somewhere in there. What I also see is this level here. It's been swept once. If it can recapture it on the 4-hour and close back above as another sweep, I think the probability it trades higher goes up quite a bit. Sorry, this is H12. This is H12. If it can close back above that on H12, the probability that it goes higher goes up quite a bit. Let's move down to H4. Okay, a lot of chop on the way up here on H4. Like we can see this here, right? Like, I actually wouldn't take that level. I think it's this level here. Yeah. Okay. You had that on the way up. as soon as it broke that trend down. But we're still in an H12 bullish structure. H4 is lost structure. We can see that. Probably sound like a little bit of a broken record continuously saying structure, but I can't impress upon you guys hard enough how important market structure is, in particular to the way that I trade and what I look for. But you can see broke the low, underside retested, sold off. Broke the low, underside retested, sold off. Now, if this breaks, oh, H4 did break this low. Okay. So H4 is still very much in bearish structure, even if the H12 is bullish. On this, because the lower time frame is still in bearish structure, really the only trade for me would be as close to the bottom of this box as possible. And then I think if we pull our fibs on this, yeah, so we're trading at the pocket slightly below right now, starting to show signs of rejecting off the pocket. You have the 786 down here. To me, the trade here that is the only trade that I would take on this would be a sweep down into here, either buying that sweep, understanding that if it actually closes below the box, you have to sell. But a sweep and tag of the 786, maybe just buying the 786, thinking that there's a high probability of a reaction. That's the trade to me right there, like buying somewhere around here. Otherwise, the other way that you would look for the trade is go onto hourly. The tough thing about this is the swing high for hourly even is all the way up here. And at the moment, we're working with this as supply. So you got a supply area here on hourly. So realistically, the lower time frames aren't really giving you the trigger. Yeah, even on M15, the swing high is all the way up here. So it's not much different than hourly. So realistically, you're not going to find a low time frame trigger. M5, you have this. If you can close above this level on M5, because you can see that's where it swept, close below. So that's the level on M5. 17 mil right here. But I don't like basing a trade off M5 for a chart that has higher time frame structure, because that's just a very short-term trade. Because if it reclaims that, it can still reject up here based off of hourly even. So I would wait until it comes down somewhere in here. Wait for the 786 tag. Get something up in there. And just know that if it closes below, you cut. Okay. We had a request for Ginon. This one has been fairly bullish. Newer token. Let's take off the lines. Okay. So daily doesn't have any structure. H12. There's a swing level. There's a swing low. Okay. So this is H12 chart. You have H12 demand here, which you're into now. Chart held up relatively well. During all of the sell-off. The low created the high. Here's your demand. If you're looking for a trade on Ginon, you could look to enter here. Put in a sweep on H12. Like this could be your trigger to go long. If you're wondering, should you still hold? You're still in bullish structure on H12. So as far as that's concerned, it's still a hold. 4 hour, okay, 4 hour you've lost. Actually, 4 hour you lost. I mean, this would have been some sign, some signals that maybe you want to cut because just how many wicks it attempted at that level. But on higher time frame, this chart is still bullish. So buying around here, good risk reward. You cut if it closes below this box, which is 16 million. So it's at 23 million now. It's a bit of a drop, but buying around here, your risk reward's good. Structure's intact on H12. I think the risk reward on this is decent. It's held up well through the carnage. Yeah, I like this one. Now I know it's part of the Nero meta. I don't know if that meta is. I mean, it's still overall been strong. I mean, if you look at the attention dashboard, I mean, you have Nero in top spot, Smoking Chicken Fish in second, Ginon in third. So it's still holding attention. I think this is worth a punt. We can even take a look at holdings for Ginon, 300K. They added 2% to their holdings. Smart Money did over the last day. I mean, given the state of the market yesterday, that's a sign of something. Yeah, I think this is a trade. Okay. Brainlet. Let's keep this moving. A good buddy of mine, Too Tall, formulated a thesis around Wojaks. And he tried to convince me to buy Brainlet in this area, around 300K. I did not see the vision at that time, and I had fun and stayed poor. But he had great vision on that one. It's looking rough right now, though. Not going to sugarcoat it. It's looking rough right now. Let's mark out some levels. I think H4 is probably the time frame I want to be looking at. Let's mark out some levels. Okay, immediately on H12, we can see that this level closed above, closed back below, closed above, closed back below. Really hugging that level. We can see how pivotal that level has been. And even the most recent sell pressure all originated from that level. So it's clear that really 26 million is a line in the sand. We can also see that on H12, it broke bearish. Right there. You got the close below. So now H12 market structure is bearish. And for anyone wondering, okay, you see a wick here. Why am I not considering this a low? Well, Because as I said before, the structure was the low that created the high, creating a higher high above this level, which was the previous high. Wicks, wicks, candle body close above. There's your higher high. That was your range. This was the bottom of the range. Tested it, wicked through, wicked, close below. There's your market structure shift. A wick is just a wick. It's just the market testing things. And if buyers are willing to step in there and protect the chart and help the candle close above the level, then the level is not lost. But if you get a body close below, all of a sudden the structure is shifted. So what would I say about this? Let's pop down to H4, take a look. Okay. H4 looks as though it put in a higher high. So if I want to be early thesis on this, if I still think this coin is going to go up, if I still think this coin is bullish, my thesis on the 4-hour chart would be I'm looking for a higher low to form right in here. It can come it can come all the way back down to 5.4 mil before invalidating. So, it's a big box. But just on H4, that would be the thesis. The problem is H12 just broke bearish. And to regain bullish structure on H12, I would need a close above 15 million. You get a close above there, you find a higher low somewhere in here, somewhere around 10 mil. To go back on a mission, to go on another leg. Something to contend with, though, as well. Once you get up here, I would highly suspect that you see some selling from this area. Just because you now have all this supply. Like, look how many people were buying that open. They bought, people bought here thinking, okay, I got the bottom. And they bought all the way up into here. More people came in, bought all the way up into here. And now they're all underwater. So these are just things you have to look at, right? Like the psychology aspect of it. If I'm underwater, especially in a market that is a little bit shaky, my instinct is to get as close back to break even as possible. But on H4, you do have things aligning with a potential higher. So is there a trade here? Quite possibly. How long of a time frame would I hold that? I mean, you have 150% plus, possibly even 200% before, or if it closes above this and you bought down here, then you're in for a good ride. It just depends on your risk appetite and whether you want to buy with the trend or against it. And this one's in an interesting place because you have conflicting trends. The higher time frame says bearish. The medium time frame, or the middle time frame of H4 is saying bullish. So if you wanted to take a punt, you can make an argument and a thesis around buying here. On God. Okay. Okay, so this is one that I had been debating or entering earlier in the week. I mean, if you guys are looking at this after me yapping away for a little while now, I'm sure you're starting to notice and recognize some of the things that I see. I mean, immediately, hopefully it's starting to become apparent. And as we go over these and do more of these streams, it'll become more and more visually easy for you guys to see and point out and map out. But immediately when I look at this on H4, well, let's go up a time frame. Let's see what daily has. Okay, so daily, I would immediately notice that. We've also got a daily demand here. Doesn't have the swing low though, so let's see what we got on H12. Okay, so H12. Okay, two things I see here on H12. This one's a little bit harder to see unless you've been looking at charts as much as I have, but we can see that we actually, even though there was no demand there, no demand zone built in because it was all green candles, we actually broke structure on H12 when we closed below this swing level. And then you can see close below, went for an underside retest, rejected. But on top of that, it's into H12 demand. And all the demand is an area where there was consolidation and selling, where buyers then decided to step in and send price higher. That enough buy demand came in and it pushed the price up. So for on God, ONG, if it loses this level, it's done. Your risk reward here is clearly defined. You buy here, you're very close to invalidation. You're also at the previous all-time high breakout level. So you have a couple factors aligning here. H12 demand. It's also a daily demand, just without the swing level. Previous all-time high level. At the bottom of the demand zone. I mean, this is probably a punt right now. If anyone wants to take the trade, this is a trade right now. You clearly know where you're invalidated. You start getting closes below this. Now, it's an H12 candle, so that doesn't close for a while. But if you start getting an H4 close below here, it's good enough early warning sign to get out. You're about 20% away from your invalidation. Not bad on a shitcoin. Like, it doesn't really get better risk reward there. Let's take a look and see what happens when we pull the fibs. It's probably low. It's probably at the red dead level. Yeah, so I have a level on my fib that I call red dead, which is like the last line of resort. The last line in the sand. It's kind of over here. If I remove this, you'll be able to see it better. Yeah, see there's a red level right there. It's my red dead fib. It hilariously aligns exactly with that breakout level. So you're do or die here. Bulls step in now, and your risk reward does not get any better than this. Clear invalidation, a lot of upside. I mean, it doesn't really get better aligned than that. Just putting that out there. On God is a good bid with a clear invalidation. And at minimum, you would be targeting here, which is 200 to 300%. I mean, you don't have to, like, here's the thing. You don't have to swing for the fences. Your trades don't have to be based around hitting a 10x or hitting all-time highs. Would you, with a clearly defined thesis with really good risk reward, clear invalidation with potential for 200 to 300% on a trade, You don't have to swing for the fences every time. You just have to take the trade in front of you and take the probabilities. To me, the probability is there. I'm not saying it's going to hold this level. There's a chance that it just sells right through. But one thing that people struggle with when seeing a chart that looks like this, where it's like, oh, why is it so down? Like, it's a natural human instinct to think, oh, price is going up, I want to buy this. When reality is, trading should be where your risk is clearly defined and your downside risk is minimized and the smallest it could be. And when you're this close to invalidation, anyways, this is a trade. Miggles we already did. Oof. Good. Buddy, if you're holding Miggles right now, that's rough. If you're looking to get in Miggles, I gave some triggers earlier in the video. Hopefully you see them. Okay. Andy on ETH. So Andy had been a pretty popular coin recently. Clearly gone through some shit. The beauty about high time frame, like a daily, when you zoom out and you look at the whole chart and you look for the swing levels, like there's it's not like I'm picking these levels at random. Like there's a specific reason why, and it's not just, even if this portion of the chart was in here, if I just had this would be the level I'd choose anyways, because it was the, it was the swing high from the range. It formed the range high. I did not choose these ones for a reason, because those weren't the candles that closed above, which made this level very important. Closed above, retagged, went up. Over here, closed below, underside rejected, sold. I mean, there's a reason behind every action that I take on a chart. There's an intent behind all of them. I mean, we can even mark this one here. But even then, it's less important because it wasn't a like. Okay, so this was the range. See how important that level was, though? Because that was the bottom of the daily range with your demand. That was the range there. Attempted the highs again, closed below. Like, it didn't even, like, it created the high wicks on the daily. Make note of things like this. Hold on. I need this. Make note of things like this. Let's get this nicer color. Let's make this brighter. Can I make this thinner? No. Okay. Puts in a high. Long wicks, wicking through it on daily. That's a pretty good signal that it's topped. a lot of things have occurred since then. So your range broke below. Here's the thing. This didn't even initially give you an opportunity to really, if it's closed below and you're like, shit, okay, I want to look for a way to sell and get out of this and not just sell into the red, because, things bounce. And unless it's an absolute capitulation and the chart is getting full stacked, like there's usually an opportunity to sell on a bounce. Problem was this one took a while before it gave you that, because the closest it came initially wasn't great. And then another problem you would have ran into here is it came right down to a previous level, which is why people got bullish here. But all that it was giving you was an underside retest. But there was a trade there, If price comes down into a key level, an area that has been important in the past, and that was a key swing level, especially on daily, there's usually a trade there. If it's not a coin that's going to zero and that you're concerned about it being a rug, which this coin has been around since since March. Rug risk very low. Very much. There's a trade in here that gave you, look at that, minimum of 2x, depending on where you sold. But you should be looking at that level as an area where you'd want to de-risk, because it was still an overhead supply zone from all the people that bought this looking to get out, break even, or as close to as possible. So now we're on daily and we've made a lower low. I mean, if you want to be a hero, you have an area of demand here. Your thesis could be, okay, we're into an area of daily demand. It's not in bullish structure by any means. So who knows if this is going to hold, or if it does hold, there's a very real possibility that it just undersides into here and sells. But if you want to take a punt, this could be an area. If you're looking at it saying, okay, I've round tripped a lot, many mistakes were made in from 20 million-ish and round tripped a ton of profit. I was having this discussion with patients on Twitter yesterday about people having to adapt to the new realities of the market. Now, obviously, this had been a good hold. Like, if you were in from March and you held that whole way up, like, good fucking job for you, because to be perfectly honest with you, I would have never held that long. But at some point, it gets to an area. I mean, 300 million. The thing hit 300 million. This is lately what we've been noticing is that, like, that 250 million area is like the ceiling for most coins that end up going that hot. Yes, we're getting some things like MOG, PopCat, and whatnot like that approaching that $1 billion mark. But for the most part, 250 million is a very real ceiling. But I was having a discussion with patients just yesterday about people are not adapting enough to the realities of the new market, because there's too many tokens. There's token dilution is real, and not every coin can run up into the tens, hundreds of millions. It's not the liquidity isn't there. The attention dilution is real. The liquidity dilution is real. That it would benefit people to realize that not everything is just going to keep going up. Yes, there are the coins that do, and this one did very well. 300 million is better than 99% of tokens, right? And had you sold here, you would have been really fucking pissed at yourself that you sold 45 million only to see it go to 315 million. So it's a tough one. Now, that being said, on daily here, on the way up, one thing that could have kept you bullish on a drawdown like that is here's the low that created the high. There's your range. Here was your demand. So as long as it's not losing that on daily, on the run up, you have no reason to sell, right? So there was reason there to remain in it, but you know, I probably would have sold much earlier. So where are we at now? If you were in from 20 mil-ish and we're at 63 mil now, I mean, you're still up. The question is, do you think this has another run up? In which case, could you be looking to sell closer to 100, 150 million? Or is this the whole thing just, I don't know. Because the bottom of this box, 40 million. So you'd still be a 2x. I mean, that's pain if you were up, whatever that 20 mil to 300. So what is that? That's like 30x. Large difference between a 2x and a 30x. But I think if you've written it down to here, so long as it doesn't lose this level, why sell now? I would be very aware that a bounce from here could just come up into here and underside. But you can switch the lower time frame in that case and see what's happening. When it gets up here, like you can see already how to bounce up into there. So if it can recapture this area, then you have a base. I mean, M15 on a daily chart, I mean, it's lower signal, lower quality signal. But if you can recapture this and build this as support, you at least have a stepping stone, a stair step to try and go higher, because you've already kind of rejected that level. It didn't fully come up into it, and there's a very real possibility that once it does touch this, it sells off. But I think if it can reclaim this on, yeah, I mean, if it reclaims this on the H4, you're shifting back into bullish structure on higher time frame. I think you're looking good. What I would say is anyone not in this trade, there's a trade to be had in this box because it is an area of demand. And I bet if we're looking on weekly, the trouble with one thing I don't like about Photon is that I can't look at weekly charts on here, which I do like to do. But I bet if we're looking on weekly, this is a weekly area of demand, which is pretty high time frame signal. So, and what did I say before? You can be bearish on lower time frames and bullish on higher. And weekly, if this is weekly demand, which I suspect it is, you're still in bullish weekly structure, even if you're in bearish daily structure. So it's just a matter of what does that bounce look like. But stabilize here. Next hurdle would be recapturing this level and then recapturing here, and then you're back at the highs. So who knows? It may look bleak right now if you've been holding. It may look rough as someone looking for something to buy, but you want to buy rough. You don't want to buy euphoria. Don't be the people top buying, right? Like this is all people buying the top, with people in from much lower saying, oh, look at that. I'm going to be able to dump the fuck out of my coins on them. That's what that is. That's people buying the top and other people going, I just made $1 million. Yeah. I can almost guarantee, though, on weekly, this is demand. So this could be another great buying opportunity. Okay. Weirdo. Base coin. Do you really want to do this? Power naps? We want to go down the base. We want to check a base coin. Okay, let's find out. Oh man, 3 hours. Okay, we're gonna have to wrap this up soon. Here's the thing, like this is stuff that I do on a daily basis, on my own or on voice chats with some of my good mates in the space. So like this is stuff I do every day anyway. So being on here for hours is no big deal for me. I enjoy it. Crypto is my life. Trading is my life. Ooh, look at that. So on God is even closer to invalidation now. Like if someone was going to punt on God, I'm not connected to my trading wallet. If someone was going to punt on God, your risk reward does not get any better than it is right now. For anyone there, oh, people are dropping off. It's getting late. Down to 5 viewers. But yeah, if anyone's there and you're looking at the on God chart right now, your invalidation does not get any better than right now. Okay, let's take a look at Weirdo. It's telling me it has a very low sell limit. Is there a different pool than this one? Are there multiple pools? No, this is the 144K lick pool, right? No, okay, there we go. Must have clicked the wrong one. Okay, so power naps. We can skip them. I posted them before we went into the deep dive. Okay. Well, I mean, you can see. It's rough. Daily. It's even trading below. I don't know if this was listing or if it was listed on a different exchange before, because that's weird price action for at the beginning of a token. But not great, my dude. Not great. It's really unfortunate, but base, because will coins turn around and have their moment again? Very possible. When? I have no fucking clue. Well, I have a little bit of a clue, and that's all tied into the Gwei situation that I was talking about, but like on a more granular level, I have no fucking clue when that might be. I mean, look, mainnet Gwei still around 50. People still covering off liquidations and whatnot. Oof. Oof. So BTC is selling hard right now. Oh my god, goodness. Solana down at 114. Ouch. Look at that massive wick on the Sol ETH pair too. Remember I was saying Sol ETH looking better here? Well, it's completely erased that. I wonder if we just got more news. I wonder if more news just came out, because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I would really wait and not take any trades right this moment until the dust settles tomorrow or the day after and we get a better handle an understanding of what is really going on here. Because, excuse me, it's not looking great. Let's just take a look. Sorry, I'm just taking a quick look on Twitter to see if there's any news popping up right now. I'm not seeing anything in particular. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in particular. Let me just leave this chart up for a second. What is going on here? Well, at least we're all in this together. At least we're all in this together. And you know what? Rain or shine, down market, up market, I'm going to be consistent with these streams. This is something I want to do. So we're going to go on these rides together. Okay. That was this was also a bad round trip. Took this from 2 million and back down here. That was a migration. What do you mean by migration? What migrated? Did this migrate to, oh, the contract you're talking about when I was looking at the other pair. Gotcha. A lot of other base bags. I think we're going to skip the base bags. Unless you want me to look at KeyCat or Ski, but I have a feeling the charts look very similar. Mog, we already did. Candle AI, are we getting some utility requests? Let's take a quick look and see what's remaining. So Candle AI, Zoomer, Glorp, Fwog, we already did. Popcat, Mr. Miggles, we already did. Okay. So that's not too many. Let's just blaze through these. Yeah, they're all dead. I know, bro. I have some good friends that are still trying to remain bullish on base, and I've been trying to steer them in the opposite direction. But you know, sometimes when you're in from lower, or you were there when things were really good on the chain, it's tough to change your perspective on it. But I try to be nimble. Like in the past, I'd been a chain maxi. I try to not be a chain maxi, although I try to limit it to between Ethereum, Solana, and then if base ever comes back around, I try not to get too diluted with my attention or my capital, which has saved me from a few shitty traps, like when everyone migrated to Degen chain. I missed out on opportunity on Ton. I just wasn't that interested in bridging. In hindsight, there was a lot of opportunity there, but when I was thinking about bridging, it was like the peak froth and would have been me buying tops. And I have and some of my good friends in the space know this, that when I bridge to a chain for the first time, it almost 100% hit rate has been a local top. So I decided against it, and wasn't the wrong move. It was the right move to skip. Although I'm hearing some things that Tom may be brewing again. I don't know if I'm gonna. We'll see. Okay. Candle AI. I've never even heard of this one. I'm assuming it's some sort of utility project. Whoa. Okay, that was a 1 second chart. Let's get rid of that. Okay, Candle AI. A lot of chop. Mark out the areas that I see immediately. Okay. So we kind of have, it's pretty choppy. This is a daily for Candle AI. It's fairly choppy. There's kind of this range here. It was similar to, was it Selfie? Where you had a clear range, price broke down below, recaptured, retouched, recaptured, tagged again, and sent. But then there's a few of the concepts that I've talked about that are actually present on this chart from the higher time frame view. One is that range play, close below, recapture, send. The other is run up into all-time high and failure to capture and just sell off. It didn't even get all the way back up to all-time high in this one. So breaking this down to the immediate future, immediate position on the chart. Okay, so daily demand with your structure here, or your range here, which makes the structure on the daily. There's your daily range. Into demand. Your risk reward is this box here is not bad because it is daily demand zone. Had a couple sweeps, but so far on this daily, looking like it wants to close below. I mean, considering that this was yesterday's candle during the carnage, it's held up decent. So whoever requested this chart, let's take a look. So Redman, if when you see this live stream, if you're holding candle, if you're wondering, where should I enter? In this box is where you enter. You can go down to lower time frames and see if you get a trigger. Like, yeah, I mean, it's choppy. To be expected on a day like yesterday and right now, like what's happening. I think if you can buy deeper into this box, into this demand zone, your risk reward goes up because your invalidation is clear. If you're in this token from before and you're wondering, should I hold or should I cut? Right here is not where I would cut. Where I would have cut initially, and this is hindsight on this and doesn't do you much good, but for future value, you had this level you were working with, closed above, closed below, underside tagged. When you're all the way down here in a daily demand, it's the last place you want to sell because, you might sell here, it might come down, and then all of a sudden puts in a higher low somewhere in here and then goes for it again. Like the last thing you want to do is sell here. Where you absolutely want to sell is if you lose this level on daily, which is 961K on this chart. It's going to vary a little bit depending on where your charts, what chart you're looking at, but that's your invalidation on this trade. So I would hold tight here, see what happens. If it can, if you can close above that, you're starting to look a lot better. You're still in bullish structure though. So wouldn't cut here. If you're looking to enter, maybe here's where that is. I know nothing about this project. I don't know what it does. It's called Candle AI. It's probably a LARP just because that's what most AI projects are, but LARPs can print money. So look for something in there or look for that to hold. Okay, so PowerNaps is saying he's more interested in what to jeet his down bags on base into. You got to look for underside, like these areas that I'm talking about. Like once it loses a level, like here, this isn't the coin that you're asking about, but Okay. See here, this was daily demand. It closed below here. It came up in and underside rejected. Now, in this instance, wasn't the move because it went on to go higher, but you want to be looking for bounces into underside rejections of supply zones. And on the, like, here's an example, right? Broke down, came back up into it, tagged, sold off. Where that would have been invalidated was as soon as it closed above here, you can buy the retest into there. See, now that's the thing. Like, people are like, oh, I don't want to sell. What if it turns around? Well, you try to sell as close to, you want to sell into the rejection area. And now you've freed up capital and mental bandwidth that you could have either put the capital somewhere else or stop thinking about this chart and being stressed that you're underwater. And then the minute that you get the close back above, well, not the minute, but as soon as you get the close back above, you look for the retest to go back in, and your cost basis is pretty much the same. Like, say you sold this, and a couple days later or a week later, you look back, you're like, oh, it's starting to look, hopefully I didn't just sell the bottom, which you didn't because you caught that bounce. And as soon as you flip that, look, you even got the exact price. Not saying that you would have, but if you put alerts or limit triggers, you're essentially the same costs that you sold at. You can still catch that wave, but with the trend in your favor. I'm thinking stronger coins would have a higher chance of even reaching an underside. Worst case versus bad bags not getting a bid at all. That's a problem for base right now because volume is so low, and they're even publishing metrics about volume on base that are essentially wash trading or bots pumping volume into essentially one token. So it's tough to say what is actual volume on base right now versus not. I don't know anyone that's actively trading it, except for some people that are still loyal to the chain, but they haven't really taken a trade there in a while, and they're underwater, which is unfortunate. Okay. Zoomer. I think this is one of the last ones. Now, shout out Sonder. Sonder's a buddy of mine. He's managed, like, dude's been bull posting this. He bull posted this chart back to life. I mean, from all the way down here. I mean, he was bull posting from here, but like he maintains bullishness and bull posted the fuck out of it from like 400K to 26 million, a 60 fucking X. Good God. Good job, Sonder. Good job, Sonder. You pulled a miracle with that one. And you had vision and conviction. Now, where are we at now on this? I hate to say it, buddy, but the chart is looking rough. I doubt he's watching, but anyways. I know he's still bullish as fuck on this coin, and he's going to continue to work it and market it and push it. And after it digests this move, I don't doubt that he's going to get it back up into the highs and beyond. What we're doing, though, is we're looking at it from a trading perspective and what's on the table right now. This is another one of those cases of all-time high, closed above, immediately back below, underside retests, rejects. Now, nobody looking at this chart, that's a holder, excuse me, it's difficult to sell this here when you're like, oh, it's just broke all-time high. Maybe like, because right here, this was a demand zone. low, created the high that broke the previous high. There was your daily range. From there to there, this was demand. So you're thinking, okay, it's going to hold. It's difficult to see this and be like, okay, I should just sell here. But some people did. Some large holders, looks like. Sold here. What happened here? Daily market structure shift. Once it closed below, structure shift bearish on daily at the close below. And it almost looked like it, but all that's doing is going for the underside test into supply before selling off. But this is most coins right now, though, right? Like, the market is brutal. So you had your lower low, had another lower low off of that. We had another one here. I mean, this is pain right now. This is a painful chart right now. Where do buyers step in? I think the culture and word meta got very frothy, and there were too many coins in on that meta. And it just got extremely diluted. And the meta lasted a while. I mean, the culture coin, word meta coin, phrase meta, it lasted longer than most rotations on Solana last, especially in a long time. I mean, you had Zoomer, Lock-in. Lock-in's another one that's taken a beating. Culture. Mog is a culture coin. Zen is a culture coin. I mean, I know those are Ethereum versus Sol coins, and they run different patterns and have different attention, but it was due for a cool off. This is an extreme level of selling here. I bet if I were to look on weekly, this might be weekly demand here. Like, where are we here? This is June 20th. So that's 5 weeks ago, almost 6 weeks ago. I'd bet that this is weekly demand. But from a daily perspective, here's what's tough on this. The daily range, for it to make a higher high and regain bullish structure on daily, it's almost all the way back to the highs. It's at 21 million. So you can't really base analysis off that. You can't make a trade off that. So if we go to lower time frame, even H12, it's all the way up there. So we go down lower. Okay. H4, we can see here. Now, this isn't a swing high, but it is an area of supply that it already rejected from. Sold off. Other side again, sold off. I'd be watching this here. I'd very much be watching this level here. Because if this just closes as a sweep, and then gets above here, like say you get a 4-hour close above here, you buy a higher low and somewhere in here, there's a trade there. At the moment, no. Because if it closes below this, you got another fresh lower low on H4. So I would monitor this close. As it stands right now, though, ouch. If you want to be a hero, if you want to take a hero trade, a hero punt, I would look at this on weekly. Excuse me. If you look at this on weekly and it's in demand, look for reasons to get bullish. Look for triggers on lower time frame. I just pointed out on H4, there's no trade there yet, but there could be. I mean, here on hourly, okay. Hourly made a higher high. If it can hold this level as a sweep, you're in hourly demand, then this could be your bullish thesis. It's hourly though, so like you're not looking at a daily time frame range trade. You're not thinking, okay, I'm going to take this punt and it's going to go to all-time highs. You have to adjust your expectations. But if this ends up being an hourly demand, say you buy now, closes below on hourly, you cut, holds this, you have a basis for a trade there. And say this is the actual say this is the Pico bottom of this Sumer sell-off. And then you just take things one stage at a time. Like if you get here and you close back above here, you have even more reason to hold this trade from here. If you get up into here and it starts showing signs of rejection into this box again, then maybe you cut. But if you get a trade from here and all of a sudden you're on the hourly or H4 trading back around here, there's no reason to cut. You can start expanding your horizon on the trade. I would watch this. I would watch that. Okay, I think there was one more request in here. Yeah, because we already did flog. Oh, there's pop cut as well. Okay, we got two more, and then we'll call it a night. Glorp. Glorp. Okay, interesting. It's going to mark out the key areas I see immediately, and then we'll drill down into the daily range. Just want to check. Okay, Sol kind of interesting there. I tagged a weekly. It's tagged weekly demand, showing signs of bounce. ETH obviously looking the worst out of the three majors. Bitcoin, I mean, with the trouble on weekly right now is we just started the week, literally a couple hours ago. So I would be watching this weekly level on BTC. I would be watching that level on BTC a week in towards the weekly close, because we can trade below this and still end up as a sweep in 7 days. ETH, yes, this is weekly demand here. This was a monthly fair value gap. This was also an area of weekly demand, but it failed that and lost both of those demand areas. So this is one of those instances of adjusting the chart to fit your bias. But if I'm being absolutely objective here, this was the low that created the high. So this was your weekly range. It's such a large range that you usually try and look for demand before then, which is what this was on a monthly scale. Like if we switch to monthly, see this was a monthly fair value gap. Wow, we came ridiculously close back to this high time frame 1936 level, 1938 level, macro resistance level that was there for a year. No, not quite a year, but we came very close back to it. Wow. Was not expecting that for ETH. Okay. So, yes, moving analysis to bias, but this is actually weekly demand here. Like, that's a monthly fair value gap, but not the true demand. That was an interim weekly demand zone, but not the one that formed the range. So, okay. Okay, Glorp. What do I see on Glorp? Let's also get this here. A lot of those signals of on the daily. You start getting wicks like this, multiple wicks of a level on daily. That is clear distribution. And generally, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 daily wicks. You start getting 2 of those, 3 of those, sell that shit. But where are we now? Where is the actual bottom of this daily range? It's here. Okay. So into daily demand. Bottom of the range is there. If you're looking to buy this coin, you're into demand. This is where you'd look for a higher low. The trouble is there's a lot of overhead supply on this now. Even though we haven't broken daily structure, like look at all these people that kept buying while a lot of people kept selling. Right? Like that was what I pointed out on that other chart. Like look at things like that in the future. Right? But this is daily demand here. The low that took out the high, creating a higher high. You're looking for your higher low in here. I don't think we're going to see much yet on lower time frames because it just got down into here. If you're looking for a trade, you want as deep into the demand as possible. If you're in the trade and you're wondering when to cut, unfortunately, your invalidation is 910K. So that's more than a 50% haircut from here, right? Yeah, 60%. It's in a tough spot because you're sitting here going, oh, I don't want to lose another 60%. But, say you wait and you sell here for it to just go here and then bounce and put in a fuck you candle, right? Like these are things you have to think about. It's holding demand. That's all you need to know right now. There's a lot of chop that went on here as well. I can also see this. I see this here. I don't love diagonals, but when it's obvious, and this one isn't overly obvious, like it's there, I can see it. We can all see it. If I on the lower time frame, yeah, it's around there. The trouble is with diagonals are open for interpretation, whereas horizontals, the horizontal range is the fucking horizontal range. So the question is, are you looking to buy this or are you asking whether to sell? Oh, okay. Just looking for an entry on Glorp. 1 mil seems like a good area psychologically. 2, previous all-time high and bottom of demand. Yeah, so if you're looking for an entry, this is where you look for it. It's been a stronger coin. One thing to be aware of is sideways, parabola broken. You haven't lost structure yet on daily. H12 you have. Yeah, H12 you lost structure when you well, the candle's mid candle. But I would be aware of that. I would be aware of that level as well as this level on H12. But from our perspective on daily, if you can buy deeper into this box, so yeah, power naps. If you can buy deeper into this box for entry, I mean, ultimate entry would be 1.2 million. Bottom of demand is 910K. So somewhere around there is a good entry. At least for a short-term bounce. You know, like I don't know if it's going to go back to all-time highs again. I have no idea. What did this ultimately reach? 7.5. Currently at, well, we can try to, let's see what the fibs are saying. Okay, so the 786 is 1.7 mil. Lines up a little bit more with that. Since this has quite a bit of trade history, we can actually just check it on the daily to see. So on daily, just on the daily range, it's at the 786 now. I find fibs, like you can use them this way, and they do often work, usually for larger caps is when that would be more important for just a daily range check. But yeah, if this comes down deeper, it becomes way more attractive than perhaps buying it here. But if you're worried about missing the trade, start looking on lower time frame, which is not giving you any indication of up yet. Like this could just start closing back above here. Yes, you're not getting this whole section here, but at least you're buying with the trend. The two ways I would go about it: go low time frame, see if you can get a higher high and buy the retest, or on higher time frame, buy as deep into the box as possible, where your invalidation is clear and close by. Okay, and I think there was one more. We did flog Popcat. Let's take a look at Popcat. Why does it keep giving me the 1 second chart? Okay. It's in danger of, oh, it already lost daily structure. Okay, let's point out the levels that I would find interesting. There's much here. Oh, that's a weird location. Okay. Popcat. Broke structure here. It's in danger of closing below here. Got really close by to this. Wow. So Popcat tagged a billion. Went as low today as 300 million. I don't know if, so who requested this? 23, number 23, Jordan in the house. Okay. If you're asking this from a perspective of if you're looking for an entry, I mean, it already tagged it, but this cluster here wasn't bad. If I were to look at this on a weekly structure, on a weekly chart, where was this? July 10th, and we're now August 5th. So this was about 4 weeks ago. This was probably weekly demand. Excuse me. This was probably weekly demand. If they can close this as a sweep here, this level, with the tag of this demand cluster, yeah, this could, this here could be a buy. I'd like it even better risk reward wise if you can try and get back at this level. It's just this chart starts to look pretty rough. I mean, it's looking pretty rough as it is, but you start getting down around here. Because there's a very real probability that it bounces here to underside reject here. Who knows? I'm not saying down here. I'm just saying like bounce into this supply zone. If you're asking from a perspective of where should you cut, well, it's fucking late for that, isn't it? If your question is about where do you enter, your risk reward here is pretty good. I'd like it closer to here, as close to there as possible. I don't know if it's going to give that, but if you get a daily sweep, if like these two candles get swept and it recaptures this 380 mil, it looks like I would like this a lot better if it recaptured that, because then you could take a trade to at least up into the 700 mil area. But I would be aware and cognizant of the fact that this is a supply zone. If it closes, we have a while to go until daily close, like 18 hours until daily close. If it closes below this level and below this level, you have a lot of overhead supply. So I would be aware of that. Like this becomes supply. It hasn't done this yet. This is, this could just be, now it's a very large down candle here. And, looking at it right now, it's got a long way to go to recapture. But if this ends up just being a long wick with a bullish hammer looking candle, but at the moment, you either try and buy another stab down into here. Buying here is no, I wouldn't buy here because you're in the middle and it could go either way. And you're really far away from invalidation from either end. Quite a bit away from invalidation on either end. So I wouldn't touch it here. Either buy as close here or into this box as possible. Or if it managed to close above this level on daily, you try and buy somewhere in there for a run up into here. If you're asking where to sell, fuck. Hope for a bounce and sell into here. Does this go back to $1 billion? I mean, it's possible. It's possible. A lot hinging on whatever the fuck is happening here, though. Okay. Well, we made it through the list. Went through a bunch of coins. Had a bunch of requests. Taught you guys some stuff, which every episode of these will review a lot of the principles and concepts and triggers and how I draw out ranges, and we can go into further detail about settings on my fibs, and drill into how it is that I'm marking out ranges. All that stuff will be covered in every episode, like as I'm drawing things in the chart. We'll aim to move a little bit quicker next time. Won't dwell and linger on tokens as much. Hopefully we'll be in a more bullish vibe. Everyone will be a little bit happier. Try and get some more people watching the show. I mean, we still have 9 right now. That's pretty good considering we've been on for 4 hours. Fuck me. All right. Well, everyone who tuned in live and anyone that's going to watch a replay of the live stream, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'm thankful that you decided to spend your late Sunday night with me going through these charts. Again, I am 0xRapture. This is Astrology for Men, brought to you by The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com. Oh, I think I have a thing that I can pop up here. Let's see. Oh, let's do the obligatory like, subscribe, comment if you enjoy what we do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing these 2 to 3 times per week, possibly more. Help us grow. That would definitely be appreciated. If you're interested in the newsletter, it's free. It comes out 5 to 6 times a week. It's thedailyedge.com/subscribe, where On-Chain Wizard drops knowledge and actionable intel from the market of the previous day. A lot of the information from ChainEDGE is on there, and in future episodes as well, I'll be going through more of the ChainEDGE data. There just, wasn't much to go off of for recent tokens. It's like, a bit of a rough spot. We really didn't look into much onto these. We can pull back some of the dates here, but we'll do more of this next time. Like, what do we have here? Chitin. That was a good trade yesterday. I don't know if there's a trade there now. On ETH. And sub 2-day tokens. P-bar, which we looked at. So, let's take a look back. A lot of sideways chop, but if it comes down closer into here, there's probably a trade there. I'm not endorsing any of these tokens that we looked at. None of what you have heard is financial advice, tax advice, life advice, any of that shit. Have to say the obligatory warnings and whatnot. Crypto is a risky investment environment, and you can lose all of your fucking money, but you can also throw a couple $100 into something and wake up a millionaire. So that's why we stay clicking buttons. And don't forget, all the links are in the description below to our website, to our Twitter accounts, to the Telegram. If you enjoyed this and you're looking for a new trade terminal, I suggest checking out BullX. I'm not a paid endorser by any means, but if you use my ref link, you'll get 10% discount off fees as well. I'll be able to take in a little bit of that ref money to be able to put out content like this on a frequent basis. So if you're looking for a new trading terminal, I would suggest giving it a check and testing it out. It's got a super slick UI and UX, as well as some really, really complex sell strategies you can run with it. You can run by just a couple clicks. You can set up strategies based off of percent targets, market cap targets, with multiple sell points and different sell percents that you want to run, as well as it's got limit orders. It's got the pump vision for early discovery. Just generally a really solid trading platform. One of the more feature dense and robust ones around at the moment. And as well, don't forget to check out ChainEDGE, ChainEDGE.io, where all the data comes from, and we'll be digging more and more into that in future episodes. It's really just a part of my daily workflow. Got the attention dash over here, which we'll drill down into more in the future. I don't think today was really the day to be looking at attention, other than knowing that SCF and Ginon are up there. Nero, what was on the east side? Nero, Mog, MPC. We didn't even look at MPC. Excuse me. Anyways, all this and more. I appreciate each and every one of you. These are only going to get smoother from here as I get a little bit more practice doing these live streams solo. They'll run smoother, they'll run faster. We'll get through more charts. I want to bring on some guests in the future. Yeah, we're going to have a good time. But this was episode 1. This was Market Massacre, I think was an appropriate title. Good God. Everyone, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining. And I will catch up with you again in the future. Ciao.